Louisiana, the 9th Super Bowl game between the Pittsburgh Steelers in their first Super Bowl ever and the Minnesota Vikings from making their third trip. Their first two resulted in failure. Hello, everyone. Today's Super Bowl game is brought to you by your local Midas Muffler dealer. They're specialists. They have to do a better job. By RCA, makers of RCA XL 100 solid state color TV. Chrysler Corporation of the fine family of Chrysler products, Dodge, Chrysler Plymouth, and Dodge Trucks. And by Exxon Company USA, who says, let's make every mile count. Hello from Tulane Stadium. This is Jim Simpson along with John Brody, and this is the 9th annual Super Bowl. The American Football Conference, Pittsburgh Steelers, the slight favorites here this afternoon. Of the last 6 Super Bowls, the AFC, the younger of the conferences, starting out as the American Football League back in the early 60s, has won 5 of the last 6. Only Dallas 3 years ago has won one for the NFC. The NFC, of course, won the first 2 when Green Bay, under the late Vince Lombardi, defeated, first of all, the Kansas City Chiefs and then the Oakland Raiders. Since that time, it has been virtually the AFC. And they are favored by a couple of points today, despite the fact the Steelers are in their first Super Bowl game. It is the Steelers, John Brody, who are slight favorites over the veteran and older Minnesota Vikings.
Well, there's no doubt that the Steelers have been made favorites. However, in my viewpoint, when you come as far as both of these teams have all year, Jim, there's no way you can pick a favorite. Pittsburgh played very tough teams. If there is any supremacy in the AFC, which some people have stated there is in the past year, there isn't any supremacy between one team and another after they've come this far. And when you have a guy like Francis targeting and directing an offense, I don't care who the defense is, they better play well.
Our weather here this afternoon is cloudy, overcast, with the temperature to be about 48 degrees at the top. There's a strong wind swirling around the top of the stadium. It rained very hard 2 days ago, and in watching the warm-ups this afternoon, at one end of the field, there have been some slips. This is artificial turf. Will kick off. Steve Davis is deep. Cox normally does not kick deep and does not this time either. Taken by the man on the far side, Preston Pearson, who gets out across the 35-yard line to the 37. That'll be first and 10 from there. Terry Bradshaw, number 12, your quarterback. Rocky Blyer, number 21, running back. Franco Harris, more than 1,000 yards. 32, the other running back at fullback. Wide receivers, Frank Lewis and Ron Shanklin. Tight end, Larry Brown. John Colvin, Gordon Gravel, the tackles. Jim Crack and Jerry Mullins, the guards, and Ray Mansfield at center. As they come out in the I formation. On first down, Lewis wide left, Shanklin to the right. Bradshaw hands to Blyer. Blyer tracks out to the 40-yard line before he is stopped there. Jeff Wright, number 23, one of the defensive men, came up to make the stop. Carl Eller, Doug Sutherland, Alan Page, Jim Marshall, the front 4. Roy Winston, Jeff Seaman, Waddy Hilgenberg, the linebackers. Nate Wright and Jackie Wallace, the corners. And Jeff Wright, the strong side safety who made that tackle, and Paul Krause, the free safety. Second down and about 6.5. Bradshaw calling signals again. Turns this time hands to Franco Harris, who slips and loses perhaps a yard. Roy Winston, the strong side linebacker, was there with him, but Harris trying to make a cut upfield slip and fell at the 39. It'll be third down at about 7.
I tell you, with the simple counterplay, the first play they did run straight at Alan Page. Second play they ran a counter at him. Had he not slipped, there was a hole.
In comes Lurtzimer now. And out goes Nate Wright. Bradshaw checking at the line on third down on this first series of the 9th Super Bowl. Dropping back for his first pass. Bradshaw now runs out, slips, and falls at the 34. Tripped up, it looks like Bob Lurtzimer. And Doug Sutherland in there to make the stop. It'll be fourth down at about 11.
What actually happened, Jim, is Bradshaw thought he saw a defense that he didn't actually see. They faked the man-to-man coverage on the outside. Then they rolled to a strong zone, and he got fooled a little. He was going to try and run the ball and slipped. It must be awfully slippery out there. They don't seem to have as good a footing as I thought they would.
Bobby Walden, averaging 39 yards per punt, comes in to kick the ball away. Jackie Wallace is in the center of the field. McCullum is deep. And the ball is going towards Sam McCullum at the 13-yard line. Excellent coverage, and down he goes, getting back only to about the 18-yard line. Number 38, Ed Bradley, middle linebacker reserve, and the Minnesota Vikings will get the ball for the first time from their own 18-yard line. A 52-yard punt with the wind at his back by Bobby Walden.
I don't think you're going to find any problem with the special teams today, Jim. They certainly don't need the incentive, and those guys get so pumped up standing out there waiting for whatever contribution they can make. You're going to see excellent special team play.
Rand Tarkington, the quarterback, Chuck Foreman, Dave Osborne, the running backs, Lash and Gilliam, the wide receivers, Boyd is the tight end. On first down, Tarkington rolling to the right, rolling to throw, and throws down the sideline to Gilliam. Gilliam out of bounds at the 34-yard line. It's a first down. Knocked out by Mike Wagner, the strong side safety, and Tarkington comes out throwing.
He does, Jim, and I'll tell you, it's no surprise. You kind of expect Francis to start throwing the ball wherever he can. Now, the funny thing is, what Pittsburgh likes to do is do a lot of stunting with their defensive linemen. Now, when he rolls out, that really takes a lot of those stunts' effectiveness away from them, and that's the purpose of it. He's going to roll out to make them start playing straight.
Pittsburgh defense will give it a moment. Dwight White is starting, and Charles Goodrum is in there as a left tackle. The fake to Foreman, Tarkington to throw again to Stu Boyd over his head at the 47-yard line. And now, L.C. Greenwood, Joe Green, Ernie Holmes, and Dwight White in the hospital for much of the week with the virus. The Pittsburgh front four. Jack Hammond, all-pro. Jack Lambert, a rookie. Andy Russell. The linebackers, J.T. Thomas, Mel Blunt, the corners, Mike Wagner, and Glenn Edwards, the safeties. And again, that offensive line for Minnesota, Goodrum, Maurer, Tingeloff, White, and Yeri. Second down and 10 from a 34. 12:53 to go. In the first quarter, there is no score. Gilliam wide to the left, Lash to the right. I formation for Minnesota. Tarkington calling signal. Tarkington, first time hands off to Osborne, the running back, and he's piled up after perhaps a yard gain. Piled up by the center of that line, led by Mean Joe Green. Dwight White also in on the stop, and suddenly the second down and 9. As Lauren Taves, number 51, a reserve linebacker, comes in to take over. And out goes Ernie Holmes, waiting to the last moment. So they've got a three-man front with four linebackers now on third down and 9. Back to throw, under pressure, rolling out, looping it now, up the sideline, dropped by Gilliam at the 49-yard line, under severe pressure by J.T. Thomas, the cornerback. And now it is fourth down and 9 for Minnesota. Mike Eyeshot comes on the kick.
Francis, that time, he had John and he was splitting the zone, and Gilliam just stood out there and was trying to straddle the sidelines. Francis had to throw it over a linebacker's head. It would have been an excellent catch had he made it. Didn't quite come down with it.
Lynn Swan, second in National Football League history in return yardage on punts with 577, averaging 14.1 yards, is back deep along with Glenn Edwards. Eyeshot gets a high pass from center, boots the ball away into the wind. Swan back at the 25-yard line, has it there, starts out to his left across the 30, 35, cuts up the middle and gets across the 40-yard line to about the 42-yard line before he's knocked down there by Doug Kingsrider, a reserve tight end. And there's timeout on the clock, 11:52 to go. Minnesota nothing and Pittsburgh nothing.
Now another tip that may be useful to you, presented by Exxon. If you want to get rid of tobacco odors and other odors in your car, try this. Just sprinkle a little baking soda in the ashtray. Yes, plain old baking soda from the kitchen. The soda actually absorbs tobacco odors. It'll also help keep chewing gum from sticking. Just remember to change the soda each time the ashtray is emptied.
And speaking of changing things, do you know how often you should change your motor oil? Most car manufacturers have new oil drain recommendations this year. Their maximum recommendation may be excessive for your car under some driving conditions. And of course, the new cars must have very high-quality oil to protect their warranty. But it needn't be all that complicated. If you talk to your Exxon retailer, he has the information and the experience to tell you what kind of oil your car needs and how often you should change it. Ask him. He's there to help you under the Exxon sign.
Jim Simpson with John Brody, Tulane City, New Orleans, Super Bowl number 9. First and 10 in the scoreless game for the Steelers in their first championship in their 42-year history. And a lot of people sentimentally are rooting for Art Rooney, the 74-year owner of the Steelers, who's never had a champion in all those years. First and 10 for the Steelers. Harris and Blyer the setbacks. Lewis wide to the left, Shanklin to the right, and charging offside is Carl Eller. Was he drawn off or not? That's the first penalty flag of this young Super Bowl. And it is charged against the Steelers. Obviously movement of the ball or of a man. And it'll be first down and 15 with the ball moved back to the 36-yard line. By the way, Broad and I would like to say hello to all of you listening in Europe, in Asia, in Japan, around the world, as well as the United States, wherever you're listening, by NBC or the Armed Forces Radio Network or Far Eastern Network. Hello from Chile, New Orleans. First down, 15 from the 36 of Pittsburgh. Hand off to Blyer. Blyer straight up the middle, breaks into the clear and gets across the 50-yard line down to the 45-yard line before the safeties, Krause and Wright, have to make the stop. And Broad, there was a tremendous hole right up the middle.
It wasn't a defensive weakness. It was a case of Blyer hitting just the right spot in the defense. The weakness was not in the play. It was in the defense itself. They made a quick pitch out to the left side to Franco Harris, and Rocky Blyer was right back there to make the cut off a tackle trap, and that's where the hole was.
18-yard pickup for the Vietnam wounded veteran Rocky Blyer, who has become a starter this year. Franco Harris up the middle and gets down to the 41-yard line. A gain of 4.5 yards. Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker, and Alan Page came out to make the tackle. So the Steelers have begun to move for the first time. The Vikings got a first down on their first play of the game, and the Steelers have picked up their first. 10:58 to go. We're just in the first quarter. Minnesota beaten by Kansas City, beaten Miami in 2 previous Super Bowls. And now they have the 2 wide receivers and the running back, Blyer, all to the right side. Larry Brown, the tight end, is on the left side. The pitch is to Franco Harris, and the blocking does not set up for him. Jeff Wright, the strong side safety, makes the tackle for a loss back to the 44-yard line where a flag has been thrown. And they'll discuss things there to see what is to happen. Clipping charged against the Steelers. Called by Bernie Allman, our referee today. Al Conway is our umpire. Head linesman Ed Marion. Bruce Albert, our line judge. Back judge Ray Douglas. Dick Dolak is our field judge, and Fred Silva is the alternate. They have already moved back, and as they move back to the 41-yard line of the Steelers, the original line of scrimmage is the 46-yard line of Minnesota. Now they'll mark it at the 44. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification.
WMAQ Chicago goes country on January 15th.
10:35 to go. From the 44-yard line, it is second down and 21 yards to go. Bradshaw out to Frank Lewis. Lewis finding his way across the 50 and down to about the 46-yard line before Wally Hilgenberg, the linebacker on that side, but Doug Sutherland, a defensive lineman peeling off, combined to make the stop.
Minnesota had Pittsburgh in a situation that they've had an awful lot of offenses all year long. In a second down and 21 yards to go. When they get you in that situation, it's almost foolishness to throw the ball down the field and try to pick it up on one play. Bradshaw did the right thing. They're going to give him a quick screen. That's what they took. They got it in a situation where they can now pick up the first down with several different types of plays.
Third down and 9 from the 44 of Minnesota in the scoreless game. Bradshaw calling signals, his back split wide in the backfield, and Bradshaw drops straight back to pass under tremendous rush, and down he goes. Tremendous rush coming in from the right side. Bob Lussimer, Alan Page, Jim Marshall all crashed in there and threw him back to the 48-yard line of the Steelers. And Bobby Walden will have to come on for his second punt of the afternoon. Sam McCullum, Jackie Wallace, and Nate Wright, and the Minnesota punt return men alternate their positions on the field. This time it is Wallace in the middle as Walden stands on his own 35-yard line. Gets the snap, the kick is away, almost blocked. Bounds in front of Nate Wright at the 14-yard line. He's in trouble right there, and down he goes back at about the 11. They'll mark it at about the 12 or 13-yard line. Donnie Shell and Sam Davis downfield very quickly. We're in the first quarter of Super Bowl IX, 9:17 to go, and there's timeout on the field, and there is no score.
Hello, Charlie.
Hello, Doris. Doris, what's all that noise?
Oh, Charlie, I'm calling from the Midas shop. Now, hold on a second. I'm going to put on the Midas vent.
Hello, sir. Your wife here insists that I read you our new Midas guarantee. Sir? Hello, sir?
I'm listening.
Oh, well, sir, a Midas guarantee is good on any Midas muffler we install. It's good on any American car for as long as you own it.
Tell him about the free part.
Oh, yeah, right. And if anything goes wrong, we'll put in a new muffler free of charge.
Did you hear that, Charlie? Free of charge. Listen, that even includes the installation.
Yeah, but honey, there's nothing wrong with our muffler.
Well, did it come with a guarantee like Midas's?
No, but...
Well, then there's something wrong with it.
With our new Midas guarantee, you'll never have to buy another muffler for your car. At Midas, we're specialists. We have to do a better job.
Rhodes, some people are saying, knowing the defenses of these two teams, it's liable to be 3-2.
It could be a low-scoring ball game. However, Francis knows that he's got to do something upstairs because trying to move that ball on the ground against Pittsburgh, particularly at the outset, is going to be extremely difficult. We'll see.
First and 10 for the Vikings from their own 14. Gilliam is to the left, Lash is to the right. And Tarkington, of course, is at the controls. Tarkington hands off to Chuck Foreman, trying to get outside. A fine play made on the far side by Jack Ham, the all-pro linebacker, who throws him back for a 2-yard loss to the 12-yard line. It'll be second down and 12. Ham is Mr. Wonderful for the Steelers. He tied Bill Berge, the Eagles, for the most interceptions by a linebacker with 5. And in the voting, he was voted All-Pro. Not All-AFC, but All-Pro. The best at that position in the National Football League.
Jim, they have 7 fellas in their front 4, and all 3 of their linebackers were mentioned very prominently in All-Pro voting. And when you have 7 guys like that, you know you've got it up front.
Lash to the left this time, Gilliam to the right on second down 12. Darkington right back to throw, sets up, throws across the middle and knocked down immediately at the 15-yard line. Is Chuck Foreman. Lambert and Ham made the stop. Our attendance, 80,997, 1,000 no-shows. And gee, I hope they're not the 1,000 that were stuck on the ground yesterday in Minnesota because of bad weather.
Well, I hope not too, Jim. On the last play, he's throwing the ball from inside the 20-yard line. It's been stated that's a no-no. Francis is going to throw the ball from anywhere all day long, and I think it's a good sign. I like to see a team come out and have a go at the defense, and it's a heck with field position. They've only got 1 game to go, and just go execute.
Ball is on the 16-yard line. It is third down and 8. Tarkington's only got 1 setback, going back, setting up the throw. The ball is batted up in the air and almost caught. Batted up in the air by number 68, L.C. Greenwood, who's made a practice of doing that all year. Tarkington never could get it over the hands of Greenwood, who stands at 6'6". And now from deep in their own territory and kicking into the wind comes Mike Eyeshot.
And that's, again, this is where special teams are going to play a very important part in determining what kind of field position the Steelers are to get right now. And a big punt is very necessary for Minnesota.
Eyeshot standing back between his 1 and 2 yard line. Edwards and Swan awaits the kick at their own 44, 45 yard line. High pass from center again. Eyeshot gets the kick away. It's a low kick. Downs on the 40 yard line of Minnesota. Nobody's going to pick it up as it rolls into the territory of the Pittsburgh Steelers to the 47 yard line, where it'll be 1st and 10 from there. And there's a flag down, and it could be an ineligible man was downfield on the kick. Let's wait. The referee was standing behind the line of scrimmage and comes up now.
If so, it's a very bad break for Minnesota because they'll take 38 or 9 yards on a punt anytime, kicking into the wind in a situation as critical as that. If not, it could have a very big effect on where the Steelers get the ball.
For those of you around the world, around the country who have not heard, when we say an ineligible man downfield on a punt, only the 2 men set widest in the formation can go down until after the ball has been punted. So there might have been a man downfield, another man downfield. Nope, it is not. It is clipping that is charged against the Minnesota Vikings. So it did take place after the punt. And while the ball was rolling around, apparently a Viking came up and hit one of the Steelers from behind, and that's going to cost them 15 big ones and move the ball deep into the territory of the Minnesota Vikings. And now apparently they're going to kick again.
Right, and the discussion was over which team had possession of the ball when the clipping occurred. Because had it been Minnesota that had possession of the ball when it was called, they would take the ball back 8 or 9 yards. Had it been the other way, they would have taken that punt and advanced it 15 more yards, which would have given Pittsburgh excellent field position. So obviously, it was ruled that the clipping took place before Pittsburgh had possession.
So they moved the ball back 5 yards only, and Eyeshot now steps into his end zone, and rather deep in his end zone to kick it out. Swan and Edwards waiting now on the 40-45 yard line of Minnesota. Eyeshot waiting for the snap from center, gets the snap from center, gets the boot away. It's a line drive punt to be taken by Edwards at the 44 yard line, trying to set something up on the right side, coming across the 45, cuts back and down he goes, slipping with his feet, going out from under him. Feet went right out from under him. He never had a shot at it. Very quickly, Matt Blair, the rookie linebacker from Iowa State, made the stop at the 44 of Minnesota.
And what actually happened is Matt Blair snuck down the wall. Pittsburgh had a wonderful wall formed. The punt was low. He got the ball in excellent position to return it, and I don't believe actually he saw Matt Blair. Although it looked as if he slipped, I'm not sure he wasn't helped a bit by Blair.
Frank Lewis goes out wide left. Ron Shanklin comes to the right. I formation for the Steelers, who have spent some of their time in Minnesota territory. The Vikings have yet to move in to Pittsburgh territory in the scoreless first quarter with 7 minutes to go. Bradshaw back to throw on first down for Frank Lewis. Off his knee top. Reached down for it, bounced off his knee top to the 30-yard line. Would have been a first down. Jackie Wallace was tested on that one, the right cornerback.
You know, it's kind of an indication of the tension that does exist today. Under normal conditions, when Bradshaw threw that ball, really Lewis would have taken it. But had he not, you know, we come back to the huddle, we regroup next play. I noticed some emotions being a little tight. Bradshaw puts his hands on his helmet, and, you know, they're all uptight. They both want to draw first blood.
All right, Lewis again to the left and Shanklin to the right. Flyer and Franco Harris to setbacks. Ball is handed to Franco Harris, cuts across the middle, struggles down to the 41-yard line for a gain of 3 before he's stopped there by Doug Sutherland. And it'll be 3rd down and 7 from the 41 of the Minnesota Vikings. 7:05 to go. The Steelers would at least like to move it in a little bit further because, after all, with the wind at their backs in this first quarter, they would have a shot at the field goal.
And I've seen so many times when a team gets 4 or 5 good breaks, which Pittsburgh has had in order to get good field position in this first quarter. If they don't start taking advantage of it, this game could definitely switch.
Again, Bob Lurtzimer and company come in on 3rd and long situations, along with Randy Podol and Terry Brown as 2 additional safety men. As Bradshaw goes back, sets up, throws across the middle, and has his man, Larry Brown, the tight end, first down, 26-yard line. Stop made by Randy Podel, who just came in.
Well, it was a perfect throw by Bradshaw. He got good time in an obvious passing situation, and Larry Brown went down and just kind of ran to the corner, but his whole purpose was to get kind of in the dead spot of that zone to the strong side. He did it perfectly. However, he did slip, and everybody's slipping out there, and I'm a little surprised that the footing isn't better.
Frank Lewis to the left, Shanklin to the right. Bradshaw looking around. Now sets behind the center, hands off to Blyer. Blyer goes across his own left guard and picks up some yardage from the 26 down to about the 22. It'll be second down and 6 as Wally Hilgenberg, the weak side linebacker, made the tackle.
Let me get back to what I was discussing about slipping. It restricts the type of patterns you can run. It's very difficult for a pattern runner to run on a slick surface. And they're going to have to throw crossing patterns which are thrown to the receiver when he's on the dead run rather than stopping, coming back. And there's not a lot of maneuverability, and it's pretty easy for defensive people to see that.
The artificial turf here was not covered during the rainstorm yesterday, except for the center where the NFL seal is. Bradshaw hands off to Frank O'Hare, who gets down to the 20-yard line. And that's about all. Carl Ayler rode him into the 20-yard line, and Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker, came up to help out. And now we come to another third down situation. Third down and 4 from the 20-yard line. And again, Podel, Brown, and Listermer come into that Minnesota defensive setup. And Minnesota now has 14 men on the field, and now 3 peel off. And they are Winston, Hilgenberg, and Wright. So it's third down and 4 for Bradshaw at the 21-yard line. They're within field goal range, but of course they want the first down if they can get it. Bradshaw drops straight back, couple steps, throws over the head of Frank Lewis, covered by Jackie Wallace at the 5-yard line. A short drop and a quick throw, and it went over the head of Frank Lewis.
It definitely did. That, again, is what we're discussing. He threw the ball. It was a dead run type of pattern. It's going to be very difficult for them to run specific type cuts. He threw the ball. He really didn't have a very good hole to hit him. Actually, Jeff Seaman got in the way and could have batted the ball down had he not thrown it high.
Bobby Walton, the punter, will kneel at the 28-yard line. It'll be a 38-yard kick. 8 for 12 during the regular season for Roy Girella, who led the AFC in kickers scoring, gets this away from 38 yards away, and it is no good. Off to the right. From 38 yards away. No good for Girella, and the Vikings have held. With 4:32 to go, we are still in the first quarter of the 9th Super Bowl. There is no score. What costs no more today than it did back in 1966? The answer? RCA Color TV. A great value anytime. Super value starting tomorrow during RCA Super Value Days. You'll find exceptional savings on selected RCA XL 100 consoles. Magnificent furniture in a variety of styles with color that's crisp, clear, and natural. Because they're RCA XL 100s, they're all 100% solid state for reliability. Take a look at RCA XL 100 portables, too. As exciting as RCA consoles. All 100% solid state. All with RCA's advanced AccuLine picture tube system. Old-time values haven't all disappeared. Look for them starting tomorrow at participating RCA dealers during RCA's Super Value Days. And take home a super value. One of our best buys in years. 4:32 to go. First quarter. Fran Tarkington and company come out, road. And they have not been able to move past their own 50-yard line all afternoon. Of course, we've still got a long afternoon to go.
Oh, yeah, the game is just getting underway, really, Jim. But in order to really be in a position to take advantage of Minnesota's attack, they've got to get the ball in some kind of a semblance of field position, and they haven't been able to do that.
Tarkington hands off this time to Foreman. Foreman gets across the 20-yard line and maybe a yard on the play, and that's about all. Andy Russell, the good linebacker on the weak side, made the stop with a little bit of help from Mel Blunt. So let's call it second down and 9 from the 21-yard line.
It's very difficult to run the straight-ahead plays at a team like Pittsburgh because they have such overall strength, and you get very little penetration, or very seldom do you get penetration from a whole side of an offensive line.
Tarkington rolling out. Flag goes down. Tarkington under pressure. Now stops. Now looks. Now throws. Intended for Boyd. The tight end is incompleted. But a flag started on its way to the turf long before Tarkington rolled to the right and got rid of the ball. Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood were really pressuring him toward the far sideline.
Oftentimes, I'm not sure it's true in this case, oftentimes when your quarterback rolls to the right, you see a situation where one of your offensive linemen on the away side tries to keep the penetration from getting to the quarterback, and in the process gets called for holding.
So in this case, someone was called for illegal motion. It would either be 3rd and 9 or 2nd and 14. So Bernie Oman tells us that it's against Minnesota, and it has been refused by the Steelers. So it's 3rd down and 9. 3:54 to go, first quarter. The 9th Super Bowl, Tulane Stadium, New Orleans. There is no score. The closest we've come is a recent try from 38 yards out by Roy Girella for a field goal. Tarkington, you would imagine, would come out throwing. Steelers talking it up along the line of scrimmage, that front four. White's in there all the way. Flash comes out to the left. Just inside him, flanks Gilliam. And on the right side is Foreman. Sit out as a wide receiver. Osborne, the lone setback. Tarkington straight back to throw. Has time. Delivers the ball out here, and it is caught by Gilliam out of bounds at the 35-yard line. Andy Russell was with him, and that was a close call.
And it was very close. And Francis threw the ball in the only possible place he could have thrown it. Gilliam ran a super pattern. Russell had him covered all the way on the short outside, just past the first down line. Whether or not it was in, it's the referee's decision. He's in a much better place to call it, and I actually think he was out of bounds.
He was. I could see by our instant replay in the booth of television. He only had 1 foot inbounds. Tarkington is 2 for 7 for 20 yards. Eyeshot goes back for yet another kick, standing on his 6-yard line. Booms this one into the wind, very short, hitting at the 50-yard line and bounding into Steeler territory, but not very far, to about the 48-yard line, where it is down there. 3:38 to go. And we are having the kind of football game we expected. Defenses are taking over. Well, there's a program note starting February the 1st. Barry Tompkins joins NBC Radio Sports 14 times each weekend with reports on latest happenings in the world of sports. You can write in here on NBC for Barry Tompkins and NBC Radio Weekend Sports. First down from the 47-yard line for the Steelers. Bradshaw's had excellent field position all afternoon. Tarkington has had none. Bradshaw hands the ball off to Flyer, straight up the middle, bounces off a couple of tacklers, gets into Viking territory again at the 48-yard line, and that is Roy Winston, who landed on him after Seaman and Eller hit him first.
So far, Pittsburgh has moved the ball some on the ground. They haven't moved it in critical situations. They've had second and less than 5 to go on 3 different occasions. They've elected to go upstairs through the air on those. I really think as effective as they're going in the middle of the field, they're going to run the ball a little more.
Second down and 5, both Shanklin and Lewis wide to the left now. Both wide receivers on the left side. Tarkington hands the ball. Here's a flag goes down as Shanklin tries the end around and slips and doesn't even get back to the line of scrimmage. Nate White is there, but a flag, there are 2 of them on the far side of the field, and the first indication is that the Vikings were offside. And that's what it is. Vikings were offside. The Steelers love to run that wide receiver around, and the man that they run most of the time is Lynn Swan, who is number 88, a first-year man out of Southern California. But this time it was Ron Shanklin in there. He ran it, and the Vikings were offside.
And it's funny, there's a tip that tells you whether or not he's going to run I don't mean he does it every time, but the spread of the wide receivers is generally a lot closer when he's going to run a reverse, and for obvious reasons. He can't be way out there because the play would take too long to develop. Now, with the rule changes that have taken place, which have restricted the offensive receivers from blocking back on the linebackers, there's really very little need to keep your receivers in close, so they've been spreading them out all year. And when they do bring them in, it's a pretty good indication that there's something coming from it. And They did at that time, and I think Minnesota picked it up.
Our delay here, the officials on the second down and about 5.5 to go brought the sticks out before moving the ball to 5 yards to show that it's going to be second down and inches to go now. It is not a first down. It takes the ball down to the 43-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. 2:46 to go. First quarter, Tulane Stadium, the 9th Super Bowl, and still there's no score. Shanklin to the right, Lewis to the left, and big 230-pound quarterback Bradshaw calling signals. Bradshaw hands off to Franco Harris. He's got the first down or more. Tracks inside the 40, inside the 30-yard line, and Franco Harris is nailed to the hits to the 27-yard line by Jim Marshall, who peeled back and got some help from Nate Wright and Paul Krause.
Perfect play call again against the defense. They had the two tackles, Sutherland and Page, playing real tight in on the center. They had the defensive end playing wide. Franco Harris made it with a counter play, faking left, going to the right. The hole was a natural hole. And when he gets out in the open, the only natural thing is for him to get in the end zone.
2:15 to go. The pressure's been on the Vikings throughout the entire first quarter, put on by the Steelers, but there's no score. Shanklin to the right, Lewis to the left. Ball is kept by Bradshaw, a bootleg. Doesn't get the block, but still staggers out of bounds at the 18-yard line for a first down. He called to Shanklin to make the block. He couldn't quite do it. Bradshaw stumbled over the intended tackler, kept his feet, but raced out of bounds.
And I'll tell you, he did. He motioned to Shanklin all right. Shanklin was in perfect position, but when he went to make the block, he slipped a little bit, and he couldn't get the good piece that he would like to have had, or it might have been curtains, and Bradshaw would have gone all the way.
Franco Harris, they call him a big Franco Harris, the fullback. He's 6'2", 230, but as we said, Bradshaw is 6'3", 230, and he can ramble.
That was a beautiful call and a beautiful situation.
First down from the 18-yard line. Again, the Steelers put the pressure on with 2 minutes and 1 second to go in the first quarter. Bradshaw hands off to Harris, who's in a pack and gets back to the line of scrimmage perhaps, and that's about all. He was tripped up by Carl Eller as he went by, and Doug Sutherland jumped on him at the 18-yard line. Second down.
They were trying to develop a trap, and Carl Eller just destroyed the whole thing with a real strong inside rush. He took down the guard and Franco.
Steelers in their first Super Bowl ever. The Vikings in their third. Second down. Lewis wide left. Shanklin stood about 10 yards to the right. Lyon Harris, the back split in the backfield. Bradshaw hands to Harris, who bangs up the middle and tried to get as far as the 15-yard line, but could not. Russell just shy of that by Alan Page. And it'll be third down with about 7 to go. If you were with us on our pregame show, you heard us say Bud Grant's answer when someone asked him, how does it feel to lose 2 out of 2 in the Super Bowl? He said, well, you go home, you lie behind a log, you stuff a cloth in your mouth, and you hope for another shot. Grant and the Vikings have another shot here today. There's no score, but they're under pressure. Third down and 8. Again, Litzimer, Podol, and Brown come in to the Minnesota defense on third and long. Bradshaw dropping straight back. Looking for Lewis down around the end zone, knocked away on a beautiful play by Jackie Wallace. The very man that they wanted to test, the first-year man out of Arizona, and it's fourth down.
They've been unable to get to their wide receivers deep on any kind of specific pattern. That time, Franco Harris was hanging around in the flat, and I think had Terry not been geared in on his wide receiver, he may have come to him, and I do look for him to do that a little bit later.
Well, now Bobby Walden will kneel at the 23. He has missed from the 38. He's kicking with the win. He will try from the 33-yard line with 38 seconds to go. 23-yard line, I should say, a 33-yard field goal attempt. The snap to Walden. It is down, missed, picked up by Walden, who is a running back at Georgia. He slips and falls at the 22, and it is no good. Minnesota holds again.
Jim, I tell you, it's almost worse to play on a dry day with a slippery field than it is to play when everything's wet, because the ball has slick spots on it. I know as soon as I'm sitting here that the ball was not held by Walden because he caught a slick spot in the ball. It gets a little wet on that grass. And there's no way he was going to run it after he did fall down.
Neither team in the playoffs this year, in the division championships and the conference championships, have scored a touchdown. And so far, with 32 seconds to go in this one, they haven't scored either. Two wide receivers to the right side now. Tarkington has but one setback as he brings him out at the 22-yard line. Tarkington hands off to that one setback, and that's Osborne, and he's not going very far. Wrestled down, and Dwight White showed a lot of strength there. If he's got a viral infection bothering him, it didn't look like it there because Osborne's a pretty tough cookie running the football, and he was able to handle it.
So far, Jim, Minnesota has been unable to penetrate offensively at all up front. When they have had any success, which has been very small, they've had it on their throwing the ball.
4 seconds to go. The teams aren't going to try to get off another play. They've already started to walk toward the other end of the field, and the gun goes off. That's the end of the quarter. That's what a lot of people expected. The score, Minnesota nothing, Pittsburgh nothing.
Folks, I'm here at Chrysler Corporation's Car Clearance Carnival, and we got some kind of sweepstakes going on. It's your chance to win the use of a brand new Chrysler, Plymouth, or Dodge free for a year. That's right. You get to pick the car, the style, the model, the whole thing, and then it's yours for a year. And folks, we'll be picking 48 winners. You count them. 48. One for every day of the carnival, and you could be one of them. So listen, if you're a licensed driver and you're 18 or over, get down here and enter the colossal carnival sweepstakes. But hurry up now. The sweepstakes ends February 28, 1975. There's no purchase necessary. Entry blank and complete details for the sweepstakes are available at your Dodge and Chrysler Plymouth dealers, except where prohibited by law. So come on, folks. Don't just sit there. Get down to your Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge dealers. It's a carnival of values.
Tulane Stadium, New Orleans, and it's cold for New Orleans, and it's very damp, about 45 degrees. Wind is blowing very hard. First quarter, Pittsburgh got 61 yards rushing, the Vikings none. Minnesota got 20 yards passing, Pittsburgh 15. 76 total yards for the Steelers, 20 for Minnesota. The Steelers had 4 first downs, Minnesota 1, but what counts as the scoreboard, as we began the second quarter, it shows that neither team scored, and the Vikings now have the ball on their own 23-yard line, first down.
Jim, I'll tell you, under conditions such as these, the type of plays that often quarterbacks will call or have been most effective are the screens, the draws, the plays where you let the other team make their own momentum, take them out of the play. And when both Pittsburgh and Minnesota have been successful either running the ball or throwing the spin on against the grain type plays.
Let me check something. It is second down and nearly 10 to go, not first down, as Osborne didn't get but nothing on his first attempt. Bradshaw rolling out to the right, hand coming up, passes over, and it completes the Foreman at the 30-yard line. Foreman knocked out of bounds by Mike Wagner as he hits the 35-yard line, first down, Minnesota.
And if Minnesota is going to be successful, they're doing just exactly what they can do. It looked like a rollout play. It looked like they got Francis trapped, but that play is designed because you could see Dave Osborne was going to double up on L.C. Greenwood the whole way, which would allow Francis to buy some time back there, which he desperately needs, and throw the ball to one of his receivers after he's run a bit.
Vikings trying to get into some kind of semblance of an offense here. They've not been able to move the ball. That's just his second first down of the day. Jim Lash goes wide to the left. Gideon comes to the right. DuVoit, the tight end, is on the right side. I formation. Tarkington calling the signals. Osborne is the up man. Gives the ball to nobody. Keeps it. Fades back. Throws again. For Floyd, it is up in the air. Knocked away for the second time. And falls to the ground, and it looked to me like L.C. Greenwood did it for the second time.
He did, and if you take a look down there, you see Mike Wagner and Jack Lambert and Jack Ham. All three of them thought they had a good chance to get the ball after it was deflected, and all three of them slipped.
Second down and 10 to go. The rain that they had was 2 days ago. Yesterday was a beautiful day. There was expected to be no precipitation last night, but about 3 and 4 this morning, everybody was awakened with the sound of thunder boomers as lightning struck, and we had some good rain overnight. And so this artificially turfed field is slick. Lash to the left, Gilliam to the right. on second down 10 from the Minnesota 35-yard line. Tarkington hands the ball off to Osborne, and right there is Ernie Holmes in the backfield to knock him down for a yard loss.
He got there before the play even got started, and when you do a thing like that, it has to be because his guard slipped, and I believe Maurer did.
Third down and 11 to go. Well, the Steelers lost a lot of opportunities in the first quarter. Minnesota hasn't had any opportunities, but the Pittsburgh Steelers on defense have just looked exceptional. L.C. Greenwood has had 2 pass deflections, and Ernie Holmes was in the backfield on that play. Lash out to the left. Foreman comes to the right. Gilliam sets as a flanker to the left. The one set back in that Osborne on third down and 11 yards from the 34-yard line. Tarkington calls the signal, and now begins to drop straight back. Tarkington in the pocket. Now being pursued. Runs out of the pocket. Back inside the 10-yard line. Now throws the ball toward nobody except Gilliam, and it was almost intercepted by Andy Russell. Gilliam came back. Russell came back. They're fighting along the far sidelines, and now it calms down as Tarkington had gone back inside his own 10-yard line.
Francis' specialty is getting out of trouble. Today, he's going to have trouble getting out of trouble if they do get toward him, because it's very difficult for him to cut just as it is anybody else. And that time, when he went to make a fast cut, get away from the defenders, he found himself slipping a little. If he hadn't thrown the ball, he'd have lost 35 yards. He could have been back on the 10-yard line, and he made the right play, but he was fortunate to get away with it.
A lot of fans thought that he was throwing it to nobody, but Gilliam did come back, and Andy Russell was right with him.
Threw it to everybody.
I shot back to kick from his own 25-yard line, this time with the wind. Flag goes down as Edwards takes the ball at 25, gets across the 30-yard line, and another flag goes down at the 30. So there are 2 different flags down, one on the kick and a second at the...
It's coming to Edwards at the flag drop. He's at the 30, 35, and another flag goes down, a double flag. And that flag started down before Edwards caught the ball.
Yeah, it did.
Pittsburgh does not fair catch. They had only 3 fair catches all year. They like to run up in a punt and gamble. Well, let's see what this one's about. We just started the second period. There's no score. The Steelers have dominated the statistics. They've tried 2 field goals. Got one off, missed, couldn't get the second one off. Didn't cash in on their opportunities in the first period. Minnesota's not had a scoring chance.
Maybe I'm giving too much attention to the weather, but I thought Pittsburgh outplayed them really heavy in the first quarter, but did not score, which I think is maybe important, because I think the wind will be a factor, and we'll see what happens if Minnesota's got the wind to their back.
This penalty is going against Pittsburgh. The Vikings, Fran Tarkenton's on the phone. Jerry Burns is upstairs for the Vikings, the offensive coach.
Son of a preacher man, there he is.
Franco Harris says, what's this all about? Hilgenberg's coming in now to talk to him. We'll get a signal. The personal foul, tripping against the Steelers. And now, for the first time, the Steelers are set back deep in their own territory. They're on their 14 with a first down. They've established a running game. They've had 61 yards rushing so far. Bradshaw gives the ball to Franco Harris, and he rumbles around. He's up to the 20. See how he can get outside? When he gathers that momentum, he can accelerate. He was taken out by Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker.
Part of the attitude must be that they're going to try to get to the outside of Carl Eller.
Again, in reverse.
That little step and that little roll around got just enough of the flow to the inside to get the big man out.
You saw Winston didn't quite get there either. That was number 60 that came in there. Going around Eller on that outside, but they got the good gain on that first down play.
Well, it'll be second down and 5. A pickup of 5 for Franco Harris going around his own right side of the line. Harris, to me, actually looked like he got up to about the 22 or 3, but apparently his foot hit the strike at the 20-yard line. 13:30 to go. We're in the first half of Super Bowl IX in New Orleans, and there is no score. Starwood comes to the left. Lynn Swan goes to the right. The setbacks remain the same. Dwyer and Franco Harris. Second down 5 from the 20. Bradshaw takes the handoff to Dwyer, rolls out, looks on a fly pattern to Stallworth, down at about the 40-yard line, almost picked off by Jackie Wallace. Jackie Wallace has been tested twice today and has nearly picked off 2 of them.
That ball was well thrown, Jim. Stallworth was on a simple little fly pattern, and Bradshaw faked a strong run to the right, bootlegged out to the left, trying to buy a little bit of time. It was a well-executed play, but even a better executed defensive play.
Well, you know, when you take a look at defense and all how they look at defenses and offenses when you have 2 weeks to build up their bowl like this, a lot of people put the finger on Jackie Wallace as the one part of that secondary that might not hold up. But he has made 2 plays today that have been wonderful. Podol, Brown, and Litzimer again come in on a third down situation. 3rd and 5 from the 20. Bradshaw dropping back, throws, has his man. Across the 30, flag goes down. Lynn Swan has the football at the 36-yard line. And they're charging offensive, pushing off against Swan.
And you can see Swan was trying to maneuver for position just like you would a rebound in basketball. He made a good play. He made it so he was the only guy that could get through it, but the ref caught it.
Oh, it's going to be 3rd down and long. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification.
WMAQ Chicago goes country on January 15th.
Jim Sips with John Brody, 5-yard, 10-yard penalty, takes the ball back to the 10-yard line from the 20. And it'll be 3rd down and 15 to go from there. No score, 13-15 to go, but the Vikings are now beginning to put on the pressure, and the Steelers have brought some of the pressure on themselves. Stallworth to the left, Swan to the right. 3rd down, 15. Big call for both ball clubs. Ball is handed to Dwyer straight up the middle. Lost the football. Dives for it, recovered by the Vikings on the 24-yard line. Randy Podol, number 29. Dwyer lost the football. First big break of the game.
And it's a funny thing. It was a very effective play. It was a draw play. They caught a good pass rush by Minnesota, but they slipped through it. Dwyer was really off and running, looked sure to pick up the 1st down, and the ball just slipped out.
At the 24-yard line, Tarkington and the Vikings have their first chance to maneuver this afternoon. Tarkington sends Lash to the right, Gilliam to the left. Osborne and Foreman the setbacks from the 24. Tarkington hands the ball off to Osborne, who picks up some yardage from the 24 down to the 21. It'll be 2nd and 7, run back by Jack Lambert and a couple of others.
This is really the first time the Pittsburgh defense has actually been put to the test. The Vikings haven't had the ball in any kind of field position, this being the first time. It's kind of necessary that Minnesota moves it if they're going to make some progress.
Well, they have marked the ball at the 22, so call it a gain of only 2, and it is 2nd down and 8. Lambert and Ham making the stop. Lash to the left, Gilliam to the right. Tarkington steps in behind the center to call signals. Ball on the 22 of the Steelers. Drops straight back. Fakes to Osborne. Has some time to throw. Now running out of time. Now throws and is throwing forward off the hands of Chuck Foreman at the 20-yard line. With him was J.T. Thomas. But Tarkington, by his maneuvering in the backfield, buys time and lots of it. And it becomes very difficult to cover those receivers.
It does. He bought a lot of time that trip. They double covered both outsides on him. He would like to have gone to Gilliam, and then he knew Jack Lambert was all alone. That's putting a middle linebacker on Stu Voigt out there. Francis then came back to Stu. He wasn't open, and he finally found Foreman, but couldn't quite make it.
3rd down and about 8. A chance for the first down here on 3rd down situations in the first period. Minnesota never completed one. Tarkington sends both Lash and Gilliam out to the left and flanks Foreman to the right. 3rd and 8 from the 22. Tarkington dropping straight back. has time, runs out of time, throws for Foreman off his fingertips. He had a high jump at the 5-yard line. Mike Wagner came up to make the hit, but the ball was a little high for Foreman. He went up, and his cold fingers couldn't hold on to it. And now Fred Cox comes on to kick the ball. Cox, from between 30 and 39 yards this year, has not been that successful. 3 of 7. The Steelers tried 2 field goals, one of which missed, and the other they never got off because of a snap that went through the hands of Walden. This will be from 29-yard line, which is 39 yards out. Ball Krause to Holcomb, directly in front of the goalpost. Krause places the ball down. Cox's kick is up, and it is no good, off to the side. 39-yard field goal, the big opportunity for the Minnesota Vikings now goes by the board, and from the Pittsburgh Steelers, they'll be able to put the ball in play, having shut them down. And as we say, there's timeout again. 12:09 to go in the half. Pittsburgh nothing, Minnesota nothing.
Here's another little tip you may want to try. Brought to you by Exxon.
This is a simple idea for making emergency stops beside the highway a lot safer. Just use reflective tape to make a large X across the inside of your hood and trunk lid. When they're open, your safety warning can be seen a long way at night by oncoming cars from both directions.
Incidentally, while you're thinking about safety, take a close look at your tires. Or better yet, ask your Exxon retailer to do it for you. If the tread's getting thin, or you've got a tire with a dangerous cut, he has good values on new ones. He sees a lot of tires, so he can help you choose what's needed for your car and your kind of driving. And right now, he's featuring the Exxon steel-belted Radial 78, the Tiger's toughest tire. So don't wait till your tires let you down. Drive in and ask your Exxon retailer to check your tires. He's there to help you. Under the Exxon sign.
Hello again from New Orleans. Jim Simpson, John Brody, wherever you're listening here around the world. We hope you're enjoying this game, which is up for grabs. It's scoreless. 12:09 to go. From the 22-yard line, the original line of scrimmage before the field goal, Bradshaw puts the ball in motion, gives it to Flyers, who fumbled the last time, and gives it to him again, and Jim Marshall makes the stop as he cuts from right to left and runs right into the right defensive end, Jim Marshall.
Well, they tried to execute a trap play there. It's very difficult to do under these conditions because your guard has to have good footing, and any slip by anyone, since it takes so much execution up there, is going to end up in a no-gainer, and that's what happened.
Exactly. 2nd down and 10. Stallworth left, Swan to the right. Bradshaw now operating into the wind, as Tarkington had to do in the first quarter. Bradshaw hands off to big Franco Harris. He's in a crowd, and Doug Sutherland is hanging on to him along with Roy Winston. And that's a gain of perhaps 2 yards out to the 24-yard line, and we'll call it 3rd down and 8 to go. And again on these 3rd and long situations, remember that Randy Podol, who recovered the fumble, and Terry Brown come in as safety men, and Bob Lutzimer comes in as a defensive lineman. The linebackers, Winston, Seaman, and Hilgenberg all come out. That is a 3rd down long occurrence nearly all the time for the Vikings. And this is 3rd down and 8. Bradshaw back, looking for Stallworth. He's got it at the 35. Wallace wrestles him down at the 45. A quick look-in pass as he ran right by Jackie Wallace, picked it up at the 35, got it to the 46. 1st down, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh hit just the right spot. Bradshaw threw a perfect pass to Stallworth, but in the defense of Wallace, he's standing back there all alone. Now, he's got both sides of the field to handle. They're leaving him alone, and you very seldom get somebody left one-on-one when you're playing against Minnesota. That time, he just put it right through the 2 linebackers, dropped right in front of Wallace, and that's the only place that was available.
22-yard pickup, 1st down at the 46 of Pittsburgh. Bradshaw back home in his home state of Louisiana. He went to Louisiana Tech, calling signals. Hands the ball off to Rocky Blair. Blair cracks into Minnesota territory, going across the right side of his line, down to the 48-yard line. Jeff Wright and Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker and strong safety, made the stop. And it'll be second down and about 4 to go from the 48-yard line of Minnesota. The Steelers have shown the ability to move the ball on the field. The Vikings had one opportunity only, and that's when they recovered the football deep in Minnesota territory, but could not take it in. Second down and 4 to go. Bradshaw hands off to Harris. Harris again cracks over the right side, and they're moving over Eller and Sutherland on these last two attempts. So they picked up about 9 of the necessary 10 yards. 3rd and 1.
And both of them have been on counter-type plays where I know Minnesota expects Pittsburgh to run to their left. The last time they faked a simple little trap play to Franco Harris and handed it to Blyer coming around behind him. This time they faked Franco to the left side. He made a counter step and went back to the right.
Now, Jerry Mullins has remained in as a tight end, and he made sure the officials know that on 3rd and short yardage because the Steelers have thrown to him on occasion and 4 scores. He is lined up as a tight end in a running situation, a 3rd down and about a yard to go. Quick pitch to Blyer, who gets back to the line of scrimmage and is thrown back there by Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker, and by Roy Winston, the strong side linebacker. It'll be 4th down and about a yard.
The play was actually made by Nate Wright. He's responsible to contain on to the weak side. They ran a weak pitch to Franco and Blyer, and when they did that, Nate saw it immediately and made something happen, forcing Blyer to cut back inside where Jeff could pick him up.
I can't help but remember what someone said, Rode. That is that these two teams play the defense are capable of. We might be in New Orleans for a week. There's no score. 8:15 to go in the half. Bobby Walden back to do the punting. And again, Minnesota uses the 3 men deep. And they keep alternating who is in the middle and which one is on which side. Walden gets the snap and kicks the ball away into the wind. Fair catch called for by Wallace, and then it then gets the down and is picked up by McCullum after a fair catch was called for. The ball batted by Wallace. He didn't get it. Picked up by McCullum. And down there quickly to say, hey, what's going on is Mike Webster. But there's timeout on the field, 7:56 to go. The ball on the 7-yard line of Minnesota, and the score, the Vikings nothing, and the Steelers nothing.
Guess what I bought today?
What?
A muffler all by myself.
Where did you buy it?
Midas.
Oh, you're terrific.
You want to see it?
I'll go out to the garage later.
No, it's in the living room.
The car?
A muffler. It's a Midas muffler. I'll get it.
This is going to be something.
See? A Midas muffler for $1.99.
That's a scarf.
That's what I said. $1.99. It's a 5-foot-long scarf, and it's gold, and it's beautiful. And tomorrow I'm going to buy you a Midas muffler and wrap it around your neck.
You know, you're a little strange, Doris.
Speaking of strange, the car makes this funny noise when it runs.
Well, maybe it needs a new muffler.
No, it would look silly wrapped in a muffler.
Under the car.
Oh.
Don't be the last one on your block to wear a Midas muffler. Just drop into your nearest Midas shop and pick up a beautiful Midas muffler for just $1.99. These 5-foot-long Midas mufflers won't keep your car quiet, but they will keep your neck warm. A Midas muffler for $1.99.
Along with John Bodie, this is Jim Simpson. The Vikings are now backed up deep in their own territory at the 7-yard line and send Gilliam and Lash wide to the right. Foreman and Osborne in the backfield. Both wide receivers on the right side on 1st down from the 7-yard line. Scoreless game. Midway in the second quarter, ball is handed to Chuck Foreman. Foreman gets a couple of yards out to the 10-yard line, and that's it. And Foreman always had to turn sideways to get past White, the man on that side, before he's contained by the linebacker on that side. Came up to the line of scrimmage and then kind of whoops like I couldn't get through this little area without turning sideways. Got out to the 10. Second down and 7. Foreman has gained 1 yard total in 3 carries. Now Lash goes to the left, and Gideon comes to the right. A lot of men up front there for the Pittsburgh Steelers on 2nd down and about 8 to go. Ball is lost. Goes toward the end zone. Bounds into the end zone. They're on him there, and it is a safety. White made that happen. Tarkington picked up the ball, slid into the end zone. They put him down. Jack Flash Lambert put him down, and that's for safety. Not only did they get 2 points, but they got to kick the ball back to the Steelers. Francis made the only play he could there, Jim. The ball got loose. He was the only fellow that was wearing a purple shirt. There were 5 or 6 that were in Steeler uniforms, and he made the only play that he could. Had the ball fallen loose, of course, and the Steelers jumped on it, that would have been it, a touchdown. So Tarkington got back, and the Steelers, and this is just perfect because they expected a defensive battle, and it is defense that gives the teams their first score. Neither team, Jim, has been able to move the ball offensively against either defensive line, and I've never seen a game where both defensive lines have totally dominated. Well, there's timeout on the field with 7:11 to go in the half of the score now. Pittsburgh 2 and Minnesota nothing. You know, the real experts in color TV are the people who make their living at it. For example, TV directors, senior TV cameramen, TV chief engineers, independent TV service technicians. Now, if you're in the market for a new color TV, here's a fact to remember. In all 4 cases, more of the TV experts in those categories own RCA than any other color TV. That's an impressive reason to consider RCA. And here's a timely one as well. Starting tomorrow, at participating RCA dealers, RCA is kicking off its biggest sales event of the year. It's called Super Value Days. And super values are just what you'll find. Take a good look at the RCA XL100 consoles. Magnificent furniture, some at exceptional savings. Look at RCA XL100 portables and table models too. All with great color. All 100% solid state. You don't have to be an expert to recognize value. You'll find it starting tomorrow during RCA's Super Value Days. Be sure to drop by. Eyeshot will kick the ball away. Do you suppose we will have a 3-2 ball game? It's 2-0. Dick Kahn, Lynn Swan deep. Lynn Swan in the middle, of course. Eyeshot standing at his own 15-yard line. Has to get the ball away from the 20. Not in advance of that and gets a low kick away. Swan watches it bounce at the 35, and down it goes out of bounds across the way at the 36-yard line. Well, it'll be 1st and 10 for the Steelers. Reggie Harrison was the man pursuing it out of bounds, and they'll actually mark it at the 35. 7:02 to go in this half. Steeler defense has been on that field a great deal today. Pittsburgh offense has had many opportunities, and it's the defense that scored. Stallworth comes wide left, Swan to the right. Ball put in play from the 35-yard line. Bradshaw back to throw, loops it out, and it's intended and complete to Blyer at the 40-yard line, a pickup of about 4.5 yards. And it'll be 2nd down and about 5 to go. When they jumped on Fran Tarkington in the end zone, that is the first safety scored in Super Bowl history, and this is Super Bowl number 9. Blyer, who caught that pass, has had an outstanding playoff performance against Buffalo, and then, of course, a tremendous performance against Oakland. Almost in the doghouse today, having fumbled, but the Vikings could not score. 2nd down and 5 to go. Tarkington hands off to Franco Harris, who tries to get by Hilgenberg, who wrestles him down at the 41-yard line after a gain of a yard. It'll be 3rd and 4 to go.
It's another one of those trap plays now. Pittsburgh's offense is geared around their guards, being able to pull and make traps effective. They're having trouble doing it today. They love to give the ball to Franco, and they've been most successful giving it to him on straight-ahead plays. When they've pulled and tried to set up a trap block, it just hasn't been operated.
Along the overhang of the upper deck of this huge Tulane stadium, there's scarcely a foot that does not have some kind of banner about the Steelers or Vikings on it. 3rd down and 4 to go from the 42-yard line. They've got to get the ball just across the 45, and Bradshaw's going to throw for it, throws out to Stallworth, and right there's Jackie Wallace in the backfield, smelling it out and making the vicious tackle of Stallworth.
Well, I'll tell you, they ran one a little bit earlier, Jim, that was effective, and that time Jackie Wallace made the only play was going to keep it from being effective again. He beat the guard to the ball, and when I say that, they threw a quick screen out to Stallworth, but the guard couldn't get out, and Wallace beat him to Stallworth, and that was the end of the play.
McCollum goes deep. Single safety now. As a deep man, Walden to kick the ball away, standing inside his own 25-yard line. 5:30 to go in this first half. Steelers 2, Vikings nothing. Each team trying to get some kind of drive together. Snap to Walden, kicks the ball away, drills it into the wind, sending McCollum way back inside the 15 to the 14-yard line. Comes back up to the 20, and down he goes there as Lynn Swan comes down to make the stop at the 14-yard line. Swan checks that. On the man downfield, it was not Swan, but rather it was number 86 instead of 88, Reggie Garrett, another wide receiver. Garrett, a rookie out of Eastern Michigan, down very quickly to mark the ball at the 21st down and 10. Now with 5:16 to go. Remember, starting February 1st here on NBC Radio, 14 times every weekend, we'll have Barry Tompkins with NBC Radio Sports. Tarkington from the 20. Takes the handoff, rolls to the right, looks, has time, drills the ball for Gilliam, and a flag goes down as Blunt had his arms around Gilliam's head as the ball went by. It'll be a first down at the 35.
A simple little roll out to the weak side in which Francis could either go to his tight end coming across. He was covered very well by both Ham and Lambert, and so he tried to go to Gilliam, who was going to trail Voigt. He did, but Blount was all over the top of him and called it the only way he could.
Second pass interference play against the Steelers today. One of them on offense. This one on defense. From a 35-yard line. 5:10 showing on the clock in the half. It's first down. Lash to the right, Gilliam to the left. Tarkington. Still with Osborne and Foreman calling signals. Ball is handed to Osborne, tries to get outside. White makes a superb play behind the line of scrimmage. This is a man who's been in the hospital most of the week with a viral infection, and he makes the stop behind the line of scrimmage. White has made two outstanding tackles. Ernie Holmes has made a tackle in the backfield, as White just did, and L.C. Greenwood has knocked down two passes in the backfield. There have been 5 penalties of 60 yards against the Steelers. The Vikings have not been called for a penalty.
I don't know where you go, Jim. When he's dropped back to pass, they've had excellent pass rush, and he calls the draw. Should be a good play. There's just no hole.
Osborne has gained 2 yards on 5 attempts. It's second down 11. Tarkington rolling out to the right. Looks like he may keep the ball. Now throws the ball. Throws it to the man Foreman up near the 44-yard line. Very close to a first down. J.T. Thomas knocked him out of bounds. It all depends on where they put the nose of the football. He may have the first down at the 45-yard line. They're going to call for a measurement from clear across the field. They'll have to bring the sticks in. Here in the Crescent City of New Orleans, we have not seen the sunshine today. Overcast. And I know that 40 degrees or 45 degrees is not cold to those of you listening, for example, in Minnesota. But you put the wind down here and the dampness of the bay and of the Gulf, and it's a little chilly.
It is a little chilly, but I'll tell you, you know what's impressive to me is that even though the Vikings have not been too successful operating offensively today, they are doing the things that have been successful for them all year, and they've continued to do them. Chuck Foreman has been an outstanding running back, but he's also been very instrumental in the passing game for Minnesota. They've come to him 3 or 4 times. They haven't connected as effectively as they generally do, but they don't get off it. They keep coming to him. And Francis is, as we mentioned earlier, a very patient guy. And if there's a guy I'd like to have trying to rally me, I think it'd be him.
Tarkington has completed 4 of 13 for 42 yards. That is not a first down, but it is also very shy of a first down, maybe a couple of inches. And that's all. The ball near the 45-yard line. Well, one of the things that John Bodie was talking about in our pregame discussion was the fact that these teams, in order to win, are going to have patience. And Tarkington has a lot of that. He's now moving with the wind, the strong wind at his back. 4:23 to go. They brought in Kingsrider as the other tight end on this third down and short yardage situation. Third and about an inch. They blow the whistle again because the linesman across the way had it labeled as second down, but now he's shifted to third down. Third and about an inch.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if Francis had a specific play for this short yardage situation. It's been very difficult to run the ball against Pittsburgh, so even if they were to make a first down, it's not like in the middle of a drive where they know they have something going. He may very well go for the long ball and try to get something going right now.
After the whistle blew, Charkington has taken his team back into the offensive huddle again, and again they come out. Boyd is the tight end on the left side. Kingsrider on the right side. Osborne and Foreman the setbacks. Charkington hands the ball to Foreman, and Foreman's got the first down. Across the 45-yard line, picked up a yard on the play, and it's 1st and 10 from the 46-yard line. As the wide receivers come back in, Gilliam and Lash. And Kingsrider comes out along with Charlie Goodwin. Our score is 2-0 on a safety. Charkington recovering the ball in the end zone and down there. Pittsburgh leads it. We've got 4:05 to go. There have been 2 field goal attempts by each team in which the ball was actually kicked, none of which were good, from inside the 40. At one time, the Steelers tried, but mishandled the ball from center and couldn't get the kick off. Only one setback now. 3 wide receivers as Foreman comes out to set wide. Charkington rolling to the right, under pressure, gets the ball away, and there's nobody there. This time, nobody within 20 yards, but there's no flag thrown either.
Well, it's a judgment call on the referee's part. Now, if he was looking where I was looking, there was nobody at all in the area that Francis threw the ball. Somehow, if he didn't see it as clearly as he thought he needed to call it, that's another case, but obviously Francis is throwing that one away.
Well, the nearest receiver had to be 20 yards downfield at least, and the ball was just looped to an open space. And now it's 2nd down 10 from the 46.
We've all thrown them away, Jim, and you can't blame one for doing that, but it sure is nice to get away with it.
Charlie Goodrum has come in at left tackle now. Grady Alderman is out. Goodrum was the one with a muscle pull, and the Steeler fans, of course, figured there should have been a penalty there. 2nd down, Charkington hands the ball to Foreman, who goes maybe a yard. And it'll be 3rd down and 8 or 9 yards from the 47-yard line. Dwight White in on the tackle. Jack Lambert in on the tackle. Lambert gets up a little shaken up, hands on hip now, standing at midfield. He's the rookie out of Kent State that led the team in tackles this year with 119. What a find he was, coming out of tiny Kent State, 6'4", 215.
If I was going to come out of a college, I'd like to come out and be the middle backer for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'll tell you.
Lash to the left, Gilliam to the left, flank, Foreman to the right. On 3rd and long, Osborne the lone setback. Charkington goes back, looks for Foreman, off his hands, and he grabs it again as it comes down to him. 1st down, inside the 40-yard line at the 36-yard line. He was hit by J.T. Thomas. The ball popped up. Foreman kept his eyes on the ball, and as it came down, he held on to it.
Foreman's been spread to the wide side of the field, putting 2 receivers on the other side 3 or 4 times earlier in the game. That's the first time Francis has come to him. I'm sure he found some defense that he liked, and I think you can look forward to Francis coming to him more.
17-yard pickup. High formation now. Lash to the right, Gilliam to the left. Ball is handed to Foreman at the line of scrimmage, and he breaks a couple of tackles at the line of scrimmage, but is hit just as he crosses the line of scrimmage by L.C. Greenwood. And he gets down to the 31-yard line, a pickup of 4, and it'll be 2nd down and 6. We're coming down to the 2-minute mark. In a ball game that's only seen 2 points scored so far, they'll not get another play away before the 2-minute mark, as there is the 2-minute mark. And time is out. Charkington walks over to the sidelines. 2 minutes to go. And we've got time out on the field. And John Brody, Minnesota when you talk about Tarkington dumping the ball out, it wasn't called, but for the Steelers and for the Vikings, for different reasons, that was a big non-call by the officials.
Oh, you bet it was a big play. It kept the Vikings in a position where they could run or pass. And even though 2nd and 10 seems to be a passing down, on a day like today, it can be a draw down, it can be a sweep down, it can be most any kind of down. But 2nd down and 20 really puts you in a hole. He threw a beautiful ball to Foreman on the next play and hit him almost before Foreman turned around on the dead run. And fortunately, Chuck did get enough of the ball to be able to hang on. That's about the only way they're going to beat the Steelers is to execute.
2nd down and long 6 when they come back. Jack Lambert comes back onto the field. Ed Marinaro comes into the backfield. Marinaro out of Cornell, 3rd-year man. Set all those records for the Ivy League for total rushing, but he's a fine pass catcher also. And as they're standing around the ball at the 31-yard line, with time still out, from New Orleans, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification.
WMA2 Chicago goes country on January 15th.
In 11 carries by Minnesota ball carriers thus far, in 11 carries, the Vikings have gained 11 yards. But Tarkington has them moving now with the ball at the 31-yard line, and 2 minutes to try to get it across the goal line. They're down by 2. Only one wide receiver now. That's get him wide to the left. Lash is flanked just outside the left tackle. Tarkington back to throw. Looking, throws, and has Dubois, who goes out of bounds with the catch. Not a first down inside the 30 at the 27-yard line. It will be 3rd down and short yardage to go.
Seen an awful lot of formations that I haven't seen during the course of the regular season today, Jim, and they're trying to find a defense that Pittsburgh plays that they feel they can exploit. So far, they're having an awful lot of trouble doing that.
Foreman back into the ball game now on 3rd down and about 2 to go. Wind is at the backs of Minnesota. 1:55 to go. Defense all the way in this ball game. There have been 2 crucial calls of pass interference against the Steelers. One on offense and one on defense. The Vikings have been playing nearly airless ball as far as penalties are concerned. Tarkington now rolls to the right, looks to throw, dumps it, and right. Well, they're going to have to measure this. Taking it is Osborne at the 25-yard line, and that looks good enough for a first down to me, and that is by about a half a foot. Jack Lambert hit him as soon as he caught the ball. Osborne coming out of the backfield.
Sounds like a simple play, Jim, but Osborne made a great catch on the ball. Lambert hit him just as good a shot as he could hit him, and to hang on to the ball under these conditions is quite a feat.
The ball at the 25-yard line, and Minnesota quickly out of the huddle. Pittsburgh now having to deploy defensively. 1:20 to go. First down from the 25-yard line. Tarkington drops straight back, fakes, looks downfield, throws downfield, has get it both, hopped over there, picked up by Bruff at the 5-yard line, and he's out to the 10. Gilliam was at the goal line, the ball in and out of his hand, and Bruff waited for the lame duck to come down, and it did, and he brought it out to the 10. Gilliam just getting up now, upset with himself. He had a score.
Well, he may be upset with himself. I think he's getting up because he just came through. This is just about as fine a lick as I have ever seen. The ball was finally thrown, and Gilliam had to jump for it, but then Glenn Edwards came in and absolutely annihilated him. I don't think there's a receiver in the world could have brought that ball down and held on to it.
So credit Edwards is making the hit, and Blunt was picking it out of midair. The interception of the afternoon. Brought back to the 9-yard line. Bradshaw with 1:07. Moving into now. Well, Bradshaw still with the ball. Running along the line of scrimmage. Still has it, and now is hit down at the line of scrimmage. Bradshaw handed the ball off. Everybody in the stadium thought to Franco Harris. But Harris did not have the ball. Bradshaw kept on to it. And the Vikings now call timeout. They want to bottle him up down here.
Right, he tried very hard to hand the ball to Franco, but they couldn't quite make the handoff, and rather than take any chance, he just held on to the ball. You can see the broken play. It took him a bit to get him down, but he wasn't going to take any chances either.
56 seconds to go. We're in the first half of a 2-0 ball game. You had the feeling that the Vikings finally had it together, and maybe we would have a 3-2 at least halftime score. But that apparently was not to be. Vikings have taken one of their timeouts here. At halftime, we have a special guest for you. At halftime, we've got views from around the world for you. And at halftime, we've got the Band of Gold from Grambling College with a salute to the late Duke Ellington. From here in the heart of jazz land, where names like Al Hurd and Pete Fountain, they're your next-door neighbors down here in New Orleans. 56 seconds to go. Tulane Stadium, and I think you know that this game was to have been played at the Superdome here in New Orleans. It's been under construction for some years, still has not been completed, and was not ready. And Commissioner Pete Rozelle months ago made the designation it would not be ready to play it at Tulane Stadium, and that's where we are today. And we're outside instead of in, and we're cold instead of warm. Second down 10 for Bradshaw. He's brought him out again. Handoff is to Franco Harris. Harris across the 10, across the 15, across the 20, 25, 30, run out of bounds as he gets to the 34-yard line. Where 49 seconds to go, the Steelers have sprung Harris to the 34.
And that was really a big play, Jim, because almost certainly Minnesota was to get the ball in good field position had they not done something like Franco just did.
24-yard pickup for Franco Harris around the left side of his own line. Stallworth comes to the left. Lynn Swan goes to the right. Shanklin and Lewis played the first quarter as the wide receivers. Steelers have 4 fine wide receivers. And off to Rocky Bryant. Right there with him is Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker at the 34-yard line, and wrestles him back to about the 33 for actually a loss on the play of about a yard. It'll be second down 11 from the 33.5-yard line. Clock continues to run. We now have a half a minute, and the Vikings are not now calling timeout. Doesn't look like the Steelers are in any hurry to put the ball in the air. Put the ball in play at all. They'd like to let it run out themselves.
I think they very much would like to go in and get things reorganized.
Swan to the right, Stallworth to the left. It's been defense all the way. Bradshaw's going to throw, dropping straight back. Now deciding to run. Across the 35, the 40, to the outside. 50 steps inside one man, still on his feet, to the 50-yard line, and down he goes there as the clock runs out. Bradshaw's still on his feet, but it has been blown dead. Gets inside the 30 and now heads for the dressing room, throwing the ball down. Pass is over. What a bizarre ending to a bizarre first half. The score on the safety, the Pittsburgh Steelers 2, the Minnesota Vikings nothing.
Here's another little tip you may want to try, brought to you by Exxon.
Try this easy way to take moisture off your car windows if they're getting fogged up after sitting out all night. Keep a spare windshield wiper blade handy. Then you can squeegee the windows dry before you leave in the morning. It works a lot better than wiping them with the palm of your hand or a rag.
Use a spare windshield wiper for a squeegee. That's good to remember when you're changing wiper blades. And if your car's windshield wipers aren't cleaning as well as they used to, ask your Exxon retailer to replace the blades. He can do the job in just a few minutes, and you can save one of the blades he takes off to use as a squeegee. Your Exxon retailer hopes this tip will come in handy. And whether you need help to get your wipers working safely again, or want to know why your car's making an odd noise or acting a little strangely, drive in and ask him. He's there to help you. Under the Exxon sign.
It's halftime at Tulane Stadium in New Orleans. The crowd got quite a thrill as Jerry Mullins, offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Jim Marshall, defensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings, stood at about the 10-yard line and had quite a discussion after the rest of the team had gone in. And both the Viking rooters and the Steeler rooters got on him. Unofficial statistics, the Steelers gained 129 yards rushing in that first half. Minnesota, 11. Minnesota got 65 yards passing. Pittsburgh, 35. Total, 7 first downs for Pittsburgh, 6 for Minnesota. 164 total yards for Pittsburgh, 76 for Minnesota. And the score is 2-0, John.
Well, the score is 2-0, and it's very indicative of the whole ball game. Really, even though Pittsburgh has moved the ball on the ground, they haven't done it in critical situations, 3rd and 4, 2nd and 5. It's been tough for them to sustain any consistency on the ground, even though they have picked up as many yards as they have. And, you know, I think the winner is going to be the guy who comes up with a big play, because it just doesn't look like either offensive line is going to take charge of either defense.
Well, here we are at halftime. A lot of activity across the field. Photographers crowding around. I don't know what the situation is, but these fans, if you'd been in the French Court of New Orleans last night, were quite something. I don't think too many of them got too much sleep. And they're out here, and of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in their first championship game in 42 years of existence. Art Rooney started this team back in 1933, and this is the first time he has gotten this far. The 74-year-old gentleman has a lot of rooters around the country and around the world, but in the upper Midwest, that cuts no ice with them, and they got a lot of ice to cut up in Minnesota because of the fact that their Vikings, who were just started in 1961, have been good enough to get to the Super Bowl 3 times in its 9-year history. In their prior 2 trips, they've not been able to win. They've only scored a touchdown each of their prior 2 games, and that each by a 4-yard run. Well, we'll be back with more halftime activity after a 35-second pause for station identification.
WMAQ Chicago goes country on January 15th.
So, Mr. Construction Worker, driving to work all alone again, hey?
What?
Lonely, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Wouldn't you rather have someone to bunch up with on the trip?
What for?
You'd use less fuel, cut down on pollution, and there'd be someone to talk to.
Nah, what would I talk about? What my wife makes me for lunch every day? Minced peanut butter sandwiches? Gee, I'd love to trade with an egg salad or a meatloaf.
This appeal to bunch up is brought to you in the interest of clean air by downtown Chicago.
Or cucumbers.
And your local environmental protection agencies.
Wait, what do you got, voice? Want to trade cheese, meatball, and banana? Huh?
This Wednesday, WMAQ Radio goes country. Country. Sitting on the back porch.
To prepare for this change, we have compiled an extensive country music library. On Wednesday, we'll have at our fingertips all the great country hits of today and yesterday. As your requests come in, we'll continue to expand our library. Soon we'll be able to bring you all the country tunes you like the most. WMAQ Radio's award-winning news department at NBC News will be an important and integral part of the new WMAQ. Farm news, weather, sports news, play-by-play of the Chicago White Sox and Chicago Blackhawks, traffic information, consumer hotline, contests, and promotions that will never stop. These elements make up total service from a total radio station. The time and conditions we feel are perfect. With a 50,000-watt clear channel signal extending 150 miles north of Milwaukee, east to Fort Wayne, Indiana, south to St. Louis, and west to nearly Des Moines, Iowa. And a nighttime signal covering 38 states and parts of Canada and Mexico. That's a big area, and we plan to serve it in a big way. Starting Wednesday, welcome to our world.
Many black children need parents through adoption. They hope some black family will have a place for them. They need and want a home just like other kids. Call Lutheran Child and Family Services at 363-0677.
The skies in New Orleans grow darker. The wind grows colder. And the lights have been on since the game began. The Vikings will receive the second half kickoff, having kicked off to Pittsburgh to start the game. Steelers break out onto the field. They'll be kicking from left to right from the 35 as the last of the floats is about to disappear up the runway. And in the far left-hand corner of this huge Tulane Stadium, which today is packed with 80,997 spectators. 1,000 did not show up for one reason or another. We understand that 1,000 were left yesterday. Their charters snowed in Minneapolis. Although they could have gotten out this morning, and the 1,000 no-shows could have come from other people that, for various reasons, could not get in. Roy Girella will kick off with the win. From left to right, Sam McCollum and Brent McClanahan are deep. 2-0 our score. The Steelers as Girella approaches the ball and kicks it along the ground. Inside the 30, picked up there, bobbled there, bounced on. Bill Brown was the first to it. Jumped in to say who's got it. And the officials are saying that the Vikings fumbled the ball away to the Steelers. And you mentioned that Girella kicked the ball along the ground. He also kicked himself along the ground, Jimmy. He slid for 5 yards after he kicked it. Bill Brown tried to get it, but Marv Kellum, a rookie out of Wichita State, pounced on the ball at the 30-yard line. Bradshaw, the quarterback. Dwyer and Harris, the running back. Stallworth and Swan remain your wide receivers. Larry Brown, the tight end. Steelers with a great opportunity to hand the ball to Flyer, and he just does get to the 30, and that's all. Call it 2nd down and 10. Carl Eller right there to meet him, along with Roy Winston and Doug Sutherland.
Hate to keep saying it's a key series, Jim, but the Vikes have been in this situation 5 or 6 times already today, and they've been equal to the task each time. Now, I don't know how much longer they can continue to play this way.
Swan this time comes to the right, and Stallworth goes to the left. Bradshaw hands to Franco Harris. Big hole across the 20-yard line. The 15-yard line breaks to the outside. Inside the 10, inside the 6-yard line goes Franco Harris. Carl Eller ran him out of bounds with Paul Kraus. Stallworth for a remarkable block along the long far side of the field.
And it's pretty simple. If you get somebody down into that position enough times, they're going to break one. And when you have a back like Franco Harris, it's just a matter of time. Minnesota's been playing splendidly down there, and that's the first time that they've really broken something through.
This is the first time anybody has been as close as the 6-yard line. The 24-yard run, the second 24-yard run of the game by Franco Harris, sets up 1st and goal to go at the 6. Swan to the right. Stallworth to the left. Ball is handed to Franco Harris, who's thrown back to the 9-yard line by Wally Hilgenberg and Jeff Seaman.
Hilgenberg made a great play. It was a simple little counter play. Again, he read it all the way, and penetrated through the offensive lineman, and that's the sort of play that they've been making all day.
Harris has gained 83 yards and 14 carries. Paul Kraus comes in. Gary Larson, a 5th defensive lineman, comes out on 2nd down and 9. From the 9, a loss of 3 in the last play. Stallworth left, Swan to the right. High formation. Now shifting out of the eye, strong to the left. Bradshaw hands again to Harris. Mullins throws a remarkable block. He's at the 5. He scores! Jerry Mullins swung in loose with a tremendous block at the 6-yard line. First touchdown of the game. And it belongs to the Steelers and Franco Harris.
Again, it's a simple case. They made another counter play and took a step to the right, moved on to the left, and as we mentioned earlier, the left side of their line is strong. Everybody got a piece, left, got them off, strung out along there, and when you do that for Franco, he's going to find a hole.
A kickoff fumble, the kick along the ground set it up, and the Steelers move 30 yards in 4 plays. The last 9 by Franco Harris. Wall in the hole, Girella in to drive the extra point. Flag goes down, the kick is up and it's good. Vikings may have been offside. They huddle with the officials to see whether or not they're going to take that penalty against whom it was. They're still standing down there, so it could be that it's against the Steelers for having done something. Bernie Ullman, the referee, coming out, and Vikings were offside. And they still, the kick was good. But they were talking about it.
Well, what happened was they blew the whistle before the ball was snapped. They had made contact before the ball was snapped, and the officials alertly just blew the whistle.
Okay, so Girla will try it again. This time about a yard closer. Walden sets up. Well, that was a dramatic touchdown set up by the kickoff, wasn't it? And in 4 plays, something he tried to do through 30 minutes of football, and a minute and a half they accomplished in the second half. They got a touchdown. Nobody had scored except defensively all the way through. Walden waits for the point after attempt snap. It's down. Girla kicks the ball up. It is good. There's no flag. 13:25 to go, third quarter, and the score now is Pittsburgh 9 and Minnesota nothing.
Well, the balloon is rising, the flags are flying, and there goes the Papa of the band. Chrysler Corporation's Car Clearance Carnival is underway. Hi, I'm Joe Garagiola, and for the next few weeks, I'll be your ringmaster, bringing you all kinds of great values on Chryslers, Plymouth, and Dodges. Now, we've got a lot of cars to move, and we're going to move them. So if you want to make a great deal on a new car, watch for my Carnival announcement. Stay on your toes now, because things will be happening fast. I mean, they're going to be happening fast. I'll be announcing cashback deals on new model cars, 72-hour trade-in bonuses on certain used cars. One of them may be yours. And there'll be all kinds of free offers, surprises, and a colossal Carnival sweepstakes. So make your plans to come to Chrysler Corporation's Car Clearance Carnival. It's going on at your Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge dealers. It's a carnival of values.
Girella, wind at his back, will kick the ball away again to McClanahan and McCullum. It was his kick along the ground that Brown couldn't handle, and Marv Kellum got that set up the score. Girella sending hands on hips, now is ready. This time he kicks it off deep, wind at his back. McCullum waits for it at the 2-yard line. He's across the 10, the 15, breaks up the middle, and down he goes. On a tackle by number 51, Lauren Taves, who tripped him up as he went past the 25-yard line. He'll mark it at the 28. Well, it's first and 10 from there. Tarkington comes out with Foreman and Osmond in his backfield, and Gilliam and Lash the wide receivers, and Boyd the tight end. Dwight White has gone all the way today at defensive right end after they were thinking that perhaps he could not play because of a viral infection. Gilliam and Lash both wide to the right. Remember, Tarkington might be throwing on first down in a situation like this from the 28, but he's not. Handing off instead to Osborne, who got maybe a yard, and that's all. Ernie Holmes led the way. Number 63, second down 9 from the 29. That defensive front four of the Steelers this afternoon has been remarkable.
There's no doubt about that, Jim.
L.C. Greenwood, Joe Green, Ernie Holmes, Dwight White, the linebackers Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Andy Russell, corners J.T. Thomas, Mel Blunt, safeties Mike Wagner, and Glenn Edwards, who made a tremendous play defensively in the first half. Second down 9, Foreman trying to angle from left to right, may have gotten another yard across the 30. So it's third and long yardage. And Mean Joe Green made the stop.
He did. Ernie Holmes was a little disappointed. He thought he had picked off the handoff. He got right back in the backfield and really caused that thing to be broken down before it got started.
Lauren Taves comes in. No one has gone out yet. And now Ernie Holmes goes out. So Taves, the fourth linebacker, is in. On third down, and a long 7 from the 31. Tarkington rolling to his left this time, dumps the ball out to Foreman. Foreman is very close to the first down and may have it at the 38-yard line. Andy Russell made the tackle. Instead of rolling right as Tarkington was doing throughout most of the first half, he rolled to the left this time and found Foreman. And Tarkington appears to be upset, which could mean that he's just shy, the way they're marking it, of a first down.
He is, Jim. And he's short. I tell you what Foreman's so disgusted about is he's short because he slipped.
Well, as we said, it has been raining here 2 days ago throughout much of last night. This artificially turfed field was not covered. They've got about a foot to go. Darkington is still along the sideline. And he's coming, nope. He started back out. Now he is coming back out. Bud Grant apparently has given them the go-ahead.
You know, it's the funny thing, Jim. Bud Grant's been noted as a conservative coach. However, he's very willing to take calculated risks. And right now, it's a very crucial time in this ball game. If they're to punt, they really haven't done anything outstanding. This could definitely give them a lift.
All right, fourth down and about a foot from their own 38-yard line. Foreman and Osborne set behind. Everybody else in tight. Two tight ends. Darkington calling the signal. Long count for Darkington along the line of scrimmage. Still long, and now they begin to move. On the long count, nobody's got the football, and the Steelers are in the backfield. And the whistles are blown. Now, did he take too much time, or did the Steelers jump offside? Or did the Vikings pull them offside?
In my opinion, what their intention of doing was, Francis was going to come out, try and pull them offside. If they didn't take too much time, and then they would punt the ball away. I thought possibly they were going for it on fourth, but it just didn't look like it when they came to the line of scrimmage.
Well, they're talking, and apparently they're going to mark it off against the Steelers. Now they're putting it back down, and some of the, well, it's still fourth down. Two of the offensive men, Lash and Gilliam, started on, and after all of the discussion, now the Vikings are grouping around an official saying, what happened? How come there was no play? Now it's still fourth down and inches, and now Eyeshide comes out.
I'm sure that was the intention, Jim. They were going to try and get Pittsburgh to jump because they do want to keep control of the ball, but in this particular situation, they weren't willing to risk losing the ball.
Signal, Broad. I was just thinking maybe that the Vikings were guilty of illegal procedure and the Steelers were offsetting penalty, but never saw that. Just a long time before they just jumped in and set the ball again, said it's still fourth down. Eyeshide, nevertheless, the gamble does not take place. Eyeshide in to kick the ball away, sails it high. Lynn Swan back at the 20-yard line. He's a fine punt returner trying to get outside. After him is Jeff White, cuts inside him, and White grabs him by the jersey and throws him down at the 26-yard line. Well, it'll be first and 10 for the Steelers from there. Timeout on the field. 11:16 to go in this ninth Super Bowl in the third quarter. Steelers 9, Vikings nothing.
Hello, Charlie.
Hello, Doris. Doris, what's all that noise?
Oh, Charlie, I'm calling from the Midas shop. Now, hold on a second. I'm going to put on the Midas vest.
Hello, sir. Your wife here insists that I read you our new Midas guarantee. Sir? Hello, sir?
I'm listening.
Oh, well, sir, a Midas guarantee is good on any Midas muffler we install. It's good on any American car for as long as you own it.
Tell him about the free part.
Oh, yeah. Right. And if anything goes wrong, we'll put in a new muffler free of charge.
Did you hear that, Charlie? Free of charge. Listen, that even includes the installation.
Yeah, but honey, there's nothing wrong with our muffler.
Well, did it come with a guarantee like Midas's?
No, but...
Well, then there's something wrong with it.
With our new Midas guarantee, you'll never have to buy another muffler for your car. At Midas, we're specialists. We have to do a better job.
Hello again from New Orleans. Jim Simpson and John Brody. We say hello to you listening in this country. And around the world, we've had letters wrote over the years from people under the polar ice cap, from people in Vietnam, from people in Europe who've listened on Voice and Network or Armed Forces Radio. It's 9-0. 11:16 to go, third quarter. First down for the Steelers on their own 26. They are moving with the wind. Franco after the ball, cuts up shot across the 30-yard line. Harris barrels out, lost the football. Battle for it at the 36-yard line. They're down on the 36-yard line. Harris dropped the ball. Looked like he might have had a shot at it. Vikings looked like they had a shot at it, and it belongs to the Steelers at the 36-yard line, very close to a first down. And looks like Harris recovered his own fumble.
Both guards today, Jim, playing for Pittsburgh, have done an outstanding job. That time, Jim Clack came over and made a fine block on Roy Winston to enable them to get the play underway. A little earlier on the scoring play, Jerry Mullins pulled and made a real fine block on the quarterback.
Second down and about a half a yard to go. Bradshaw will go for the first down and perhaps put it up here. He is going for the first down. Harris bangs for the first down out to the 40-yard line, where it's an easy first down. Roy Winston makes the stop, along with Alan Page. So add some more yardage to that total of Franco Harris, who has now gained 106 yards and 17 carries, and we've got 25 minutes of football left. Franco Harris has scored the only touchdown of the game. Franco Harris is playing like the most valuable player in the game. A long way to go yet. First down from the 39-yard line for the Steelers. Bradshaw throwing on first down. Down and out pattern across the way to Lynn Swan. Jackie Wallace makes the stop. Makes that Stallworth, not Swan. 82, not 88. Nevertheless, it's a gain from the 40 out to the 48-yard line, where it's second down and 2.
Very safe type of throw also, Jim. He got Jackie Wallace in a one-on-one situation where Wallace is respecting his feet, staying a little off him, just a short hitch pass. They're starting to mix the ball up and move it offensively now.
Stallworth to the left, Swan to the right. Steelers have been a good second-half ball club all year long, offensively and especially tough defensively in the second half. Franco Harris bangs for more yardage on the first down. Going behind his own left tackle and guard, Roy Winston came across the line of scrimmage to make the stop at the 48-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings, where it's first down, Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, there is a saying that your first trip to the Super Bowl, you don't win it, except for the first Super Bowl of the year, and then, of course, Weave Eubank did with the Jets. The Steelers are trying to do it.
Nothing but a saying, Jim.
This is Minnesota's third. They're down 9-0 midway in the third quarter. And more importantly, it's shown no offense at all. Bradshaw, ball on his hip. In trouble. Gets away. He's strong. Gets the block. Comes up to the 50-yard line and runs out of bounds into the Minnesota bench. A gain of, well, after all that running, maybe a yard, and maybe he lost a yard. But Bradshaw was in deep trouble at his own 35.
Really was, and Hilgenberg had him and threw him out, and that play was made totally by Bradshaw, and even though it gained only 1 yard, it was a real big play.
Well, let's give him more than one, John. They've now marked the ball in front of all those Minnesota Vikings who are standing up in front of us, about 4 yards, down to the 44, so give him 4. Second down and 6. Big difference. Bradshaw's strong, 230 pounds. Runs the ball, this time himself. Gets his quarterback straight ahead and gain a yard. So it's third down and about 5.
That time you can see that Hilgenberg is a little frustrated that he didn't throw Bradshaw for a loss on the last play, and this play he got a little lick in. Wasn't called late, but it was awful close.
Wertzimer, Odell, and Brown come in. Winston, Seaman, Hilgenberg come out. For the Vikings on third down. And a long 4 to go. The ball at the 43-yard line of the Vikings. Stallworth drops out to the left. Swan swings out to the right. Bradshaw looks to the right. Now to the left. Perhaps calling an audible. Now steps behind the center. Now hands off straight ahead. Carl Eller really made mincemeat of the running back on the play, Rocky Blythe.
It was the kind of play where they were stunning. Carl was going to stunt to the inside. He ran right through Rocky and made a great play.
So it's fourth down. And now the Steelers will have to kick it away. 7:20 to go in this third quarter. Bobby Walden, one time a running back at Georgia, and for 3 years a running back in the Canadian League. But a punter all the way here in the National Football League, steps back to his 45. Jackie Wallace, the middleman of the 3 deep for the Minnesota Vikings. The snap. Walden gets it high, bounding down at the 10, rolls for the end zone and into the end zone, and will come out to the 20-yard line. Ball goes into the end zone for touchback. Will come out to the 20. First and 10 for the Vikings. And with 6:49 to go here in the third quarter, Fran Tarkington and the Minnesota Vikings will try to get something going. They have had very little success, and especially so on the ground. There's no doubt about that. We keep saying the same thing, Jim. I don't know what else one can say. He's going to have to get something started. I'm glad I don't have the problem right now. Well, Lash and Gilliam go out wide to the right, both on the same side. First down from the 20-yard line. Ball is handed. Rolls. Down goes Chuck Foreman in the backfield. May have lost the football. They're jumping in. He was knocked down immediately. I don't believe it's a fumble, but he went down in a hurry and the ball squirted away.
They ruled very definitely it was not a fumble. Kind of play where they ruled that it was a fumble after he hit the ground and then the play's dead.
Mel Blunt stepped in to say something, and apparently Joe Green, his teammate, didn't like what he was going to say or was saying, so he very quickly stepped between them. Lauren Taves takes over for Andy Russell, who is limped to the sideline. Second down, 11. Tarkington rolling to the right. That's what he likes to do. Knocked away by L.C. Greenwood again. Picked out of midair by Tarkington. Who throws deep to Gilliam. Gilliam got it at the 50-yard line and wrestled out of bounds by Glenn Edwards.
That's no play, Jim. He cannot throw the ball twice. And once he's thrown it and completed it to himself, it's over. And you'll see it come back.
If the flag is down at the 10-yard line,
Francis knows that, too. I tell you, that's what he's trying to get going.
that's not the flea flicker where you hand off to somebody and they give it back to you. He threw it. It was batted away for the third time today by L.C. Greenwood. Tarkington picked it out and perhaps thought maybe he could just get away with something. Worth trying anyway, but it didn't work, and it'll come back. Well, we told you that the top runner for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Franco Harris, is over 100 yards. Chuck Foreman has carried 8 times for a total of 9 yards today. That is really shutting down your running game, and if you think that's something, remember the Oakland Raiders, whom a lot of people respect, gained 29 total yards on the ground against the Steelers. The ball has been put back at the line of scrimmage, where Foreman was knocked down 2 plays ago. It is now third down and 11. That's just an incompleted pass. Lash, Gilliam both come to the left this time. Third and 11. 9-0 Pittsburgh. 5:58 to go, third quarter. Tarkington hands the ball to Foreman, breaks up the middle and gets out near the 30-yard line, and he may have the first down at the 30. That's the best run of the day for any Viking back. It was a simple little draw play. It's the first time they've broken anything right through the secondary, and it was done on a delay action, letting the Pittsburgh front four make their charge and let their own charge take them out of it. On the 30-yard line, first and 10 for the Vikings. They're going against the wind, which is a chilly one today. Gilliam comes to the right, Lash to the left. Tarkington would be throwing into the wind. He'll have the wind at his back in the fourth quarter. Tarkington hands off to Osborne, and Ernie Holmes is right there to wrestle him back. Dropped him back at about the 27, but they're going to give him a yard gain. It'll be second down and 9 from the 31. Well, L.C. Greenwood, Joe Green, Ernie Holmes, and Dwight White have had quite a day. Osborne has carried 5 times, or rather 7 times, for 5 yards. And before that 10-yard burst by Foreman, he had 9 yards. So that's 26 yards unofficially today. For the first time, he's got somebody in motion. It's Foreman. Ball is handed off to Osborne. In the backfield, he is knocked down. L.C. Greenwood, an outstanding defensive player today, knocks him down at the 27-yard line. And you know, it's rare when you see a man tackle at his own backfield, but the Vikings have had that happen nearly a half dozen times today.
They have had it happen, and they're playing in a stunt situation. LC's crashing through there. There was a hole for Osborne to get through, but he couldn't get to it in time.
Third down and 13 to go. Last time on third and long, it was Foreman who popped up the middle on the delayed draw. Last to the left, Gideon to the right. Tarkington desperately trying to get on track, drops straight back, now rolls out to the right. Now fires for Stu Boyd. His tight end, he's got it. Edwards knocks him down. First down across the 50-yard line. They'll mark it at the 45. Boy, I tell you, Francis hung in there. And against Pittsburgh, it's a tough thing to do. He was fighting for time. He came back. He didn't roll anywhere. He stood tough in the pocket, and he got clobbered after he threw the ball. And it was just an out. Just put the ball the only place it could have been thrown to get it completed. 28-yard pass to the tight end, Stu Boyd. That's the first time Tarkington has thrown to him all day long. Vikings now first down at the 45 of Pittsburgh. Taves remains the right side linebacker. Andy Russell still along the sidelines. He lifts off. High formation for the Vikings in a 9-0 game. Tarkington hands to Foreman, and in the backfield, he is knocked down by Ed Bradley, who is in at middle linebacker, along with Jack Ham. Well, Bradley's taken over from Lambert in the middle, and we saw Russell limp over, and Taves play the right side, the weak side. Again, a tackle in the backfield of the Minnesota Vikings. It's second down and 12 from the 47. Last to the right and get him to the left. Back split about 10 yards in the backfield. Washington calling signals on second and long yardage. Rolls out to the left. Looks. Stands at the 50. Ball knocked up in the air. Picked up by Mean Joe Green. Green is down to the 45-yard line. The fourth pass today deflected off Tarkington, and it was picked out of midair by Mean Joe Green. Looked like Dwight White was the man that knocked it up in the air.
Green was pursuing the play, trying to get in whatever he could. He was in a no man's land where somebody tipped the ball. Actually, Tarkington had Stu Boyd, who had gone against the grain and was open. It looks to me like there might be a penalty after the play. Yeah, it was. It was flipping.
Flipping call against the Steelers, takes it back to the 39, but they've got the football on the interception. Well, this Pittsburgh defense today has been awesome. 4 times now, Tarkington has had a pass deflected. Vaughn comes to the right, Stallworth to the left. 9-0 the score, 2:31 to go in the third quarter. Steelers trying to dominate here, get something going. Ball is headed. Franco Harris cuts out to the right side, the left tackle, gets across the 45 to the 46-yard line. Jeff Seaman and Paul Krause made the stop there. A gain of 7. It'll be second down and 3 for the Steelers, and Harris is running his way up toward 120 yards. 2:10 to go in the third quarter. Well, as Brode said, John Brody, it's only a saying you're not supposed to win the first time out. The Steelers haven't won it, but they're playing like they're the masters of the situation at the moment. Second down and 3 to go from the 46-yard line. Bradshaw hands to Harris straight ahead, and that is Alan Page has got him around the ankles, and he picks up maybe a yard to the 47-yard line, where it's third down and a couple of yards to go. Franco Harris has gained 117 yards and 20 carries, and you and I can count, that's almost 6 yards a carry. Bradshaw looking, throwing, it is picked off by Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker, who gets down to the 46-yard line. And just like that, the Vikings come back, but they were offside on the play. Flag down, Vikings offside. So rare have the Vikings had a penalty this afternoon, and this time when they had a chance to get back into the game, the offside penalty is called.
Linebackers just played it perfect. That's just a tough break. There's nothing you can say about that. I had just mentioned that Bradshaw had no need to throw anything that wasn't safe, and I'm not to say that he shouldn't have thrown that ball. I was a little surprised that he didn't run the ball again.
5-yard penalty that gives them a first down in Minnesota territory from the 49-yard line. Big penalty there. Bradshaw still with the football. Hands off to Franco Harris, who gets a couple of yards from the 49 to about the 47-yard line. Wally Hilgenberg and Jeff Seaman came in to make the tackle. And it'll be second down. And let's call it 9 yards to go. Less than a minute to go here in the third quarter. There have been two scores, both by the Steelers. One by their defense, a safety, one by their offense. A 9-yard run by Franco Harris after the opening kickoff of the second half along the ground. It was bobbled by Minnesota, and Kellum recovered at the 30 to set up their scoring drive. Nobody has driven more than 30 yards for any score. There haven't been too many scores. Harris starts around the right side, runs into Jim Marshall, runs past Jim Marshall, and gets down to the 45-yard line. Where it's third down and 6. Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker, floated over from that spot to make the stop.
Minnesota, Jim, has made a living on capitalizing on other people's mistakes. And right now, it's very mandatory that they get one because Pittsburgh just hasn't given up any.
Unofficially, Pittsburgh has rushed for 193 yards. Minnesota for 19. I doubt that they'll get this play off. They're counting down 3, 2, 1. It's going to be the end of the third quarter. With 1 quarter to go, the Steelers have the football, third and long, and they've got the lead. Pittsburgh 9, Minnesota nothing.
Here's another little tip you may want to try. Brought to you by Exxon.
If you want to measure something when there's no ruler handy, remember this. You have a ruler in your billfold. That's right. You can use a dollar bill for a ruler. It's just a wee bit over 6 inches long, about 6 1/8 inches to be more exact. So when you're out shopping and you want to see if something will fit at home, just pull out a dollar and start measuring.
Use a dollar bill for a ruler. That might come in handy. Your Exxon retailer hopes this little tip will help you sometime, because helping people is what good service is all about. For example, when your car starts making an odd noise or acting a little strangely, ask your Exxon retailer about it. He sees a lot of cars, so chances are he can give you some good ideas about what could be wrong, and he may even be able to fix it on the spot. So drive in and ask him. He's there to help you, under the Exxon sign.
Jim Simpson, John Brody, through 3 quarters of play, 235 yards total offense for Pittsburgh, unofficially. Minnesota, 118. 99 of Minnesota's 118 have been on Fran Tarkington's arm. 42, been passing by Bradshaw, 193, most of that by Franco Harris along the ground. Pittsburgh has had the ball for 51 snaps from center, Minnesota 41. First down to 12-8 Pittsburgh, and the score is 9-0. It'll be third down and 6 to go. And when the Vikings do get the football, be aware that in 14 games of the regular season, the Steeler defense allowed a total of 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals in the fourth quarter of 14 games. They get tougher instead of easier as time goes on. Third down and 6 for Bradshaw at the 45 of Minnesota, and he's dropping straight back to pass. Bradshaw looking and throwing, and he's got Larry Brown, who cannot hold on to the ball at the 35-yard line. Terry Brown defending on the play, and now against the wind, Bobby Walden will have to kick the ball away.
Bradshaw put the ball right on the money that time. It was a definite passing situation. It was a good sideline pass, and just tough to hang on to.
Jackie Wallace, a deep man. Sam McCollum now dashes out to join him as a double safety. Walden standing on his own 42-yard line. They are not playing him to kick the ball too deeply against that wind and with a 39-yard punting average. Walden gets the ball away, and it is knocked deep. It's going to hit at about the 22-yard line, and it's caught at the 23-yard line by Jackie Wallace. First and 10 from the 23. Well, the score with timeout on the field is Pittsburgh 9 and Minnesota nothing. What cost no more today than it did back in 1966? The answer, RCA Color TV. A great value anytime. Super value starting tomorrow during RCA Super Value Day. You'll find exceptional savings on selected RCA XL 100 consoles. Magnificent furniture in a variety of style with color that's crisp, clear, and natural. Because they're RCA XL 100s, they're all 100% solid state for reliability. Take a look at RCA XL portables, too. As exciting as RCA's consoles. All 100% solid state. All with RCA's advanced Acculine picture tube system. Old-time values haven't all disappeared. Look for them starting tomorrow at participating RCA dealers during RCA Super Value Day. And take home a super value. One of our best buys in years. A 22-yard punt against the wind by Bobby Walden. And the wind is so important in any game, as John Brody can tell you. And right now, with 14:48 to go, this final quarter, the Vikings have not been able to get anything going. At least will have the wind at their backs.
Well, the situation has definitely been set. Francis is going to have to throw the ball almost exclusively. And under normal conditions, I wouldn't like to have him doing that against me. But these aren't normal conditions, and it's going to be tough.
Flash and Foreman to the right, Gilliam to the left. Foreman is flanked out as the wide receiver. Osborne, the only setback. Tarkington on first down, dropping straight back to throw. Looking downfield to Foreman. Foreman has the football and is brought down by Ernie Holmes. Bouncing off a couple of linebackers, Taves and Ham. Bouncing back to about the 26-yard line and hit there by Ernie Holmes. They'll mark it at the 29, a gain of 5. Next out of 6, it's second down and 4. As Sam Rutigliano and talking to John Brody at halftime said, what a remarkable athlete and how versatile he is, that you can use him as a wide receiver. Flash comes to the right. Gilliam flanks inside of them to the right. Second down 4 from the 29. Foreman now running with the ball, and Blunt has him from behind, and they get him in the backfield again. Maybe he got back to the line of scrimmage. Certainly no more than that. Third down. The Pittsburgh defense has been swarming. That time, the right cornerback, Blunt, came up to make the play. Third down. Minnesota on third down conversions have been successful on 5 of 11. Dwight White is now out. Steve Furness is in. White has played most of the game. He had the viral problems. Jack Lambert has been out. Andy Russell has been out. In the middle and on the right side, with Lauren Taves and Ed Bradley playing. 2 of the 3 linebackers no longer in there for Pittsburgh. Third down and 4, Tarkington dropping straight back, looking, has time, overthrows Foreman, with Glenn Edwards almost having a shot at picking it off. Got one hand on the ball, and it's fourth down.
Well, actually, Taves went out to help on the wide receiver, leaving Bradley alone with Foreman, so Francis was there the whole time trying to let Foreman find an open spot. Glenn Edwards came up and made the real fine play from his free safety position and forcing the ball to go over everybody's head.
Tarkington is 10 of 23 for 105 yards, 2 interceptions. Lynn Swan has gone back with Glenn Edwards. They're standing at the 35. I shot at his own 15. Remember, he has the wind at his back. Gets one high and not too long. No fair catch called for by Lynn Swan at the 35, who gets out to the 46-yard line. An 11-yard return. Kingsrider makes the stop. It's first and 10 from there. For the Steelers, with time now beginning to grind down. 9-0 our score. There's time out on the field with the score of the Steelers 9 and the Vikings nothing.
Folks, I'm here at Chrysler Corporation's Car Clearance Carnival, and we got some kind of sweepstakes going on. It's your chance to win the use of a brand new Chrysler, Plymouth, or Dodge free for a year. That's right. You get to pick the car, the style, the model, the whole thing, and then it's yours for a year. And folks, we'll be picking 48 winners. You count them. 48. One for every day of the carnival, and you could be one of them. So listen, If you're a licensed driver and you're 18 or over, get down here and enter the colossal Carnival Sweepstakes. But hurry up now. The sweepstakes ends February 28, 1975. There's no purchase necessary. Entry blank and complete details for the sweepstakes are available at your Dodge and Chrysler Plymouth dealers, except where prohibited by law. So come on, folks. Don't just sit there. Get down to your Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge dealers. It's a carnival of values.
From chilly, damp New Orleans, where it is unseasonably cool today and a lot of wind, the Steelers have the ball first and 10 on their own 46 with 13:05 to go. That's how far away they are from giving Mr. Art Rooney his first championship in 42 years. The Vikings are still looking for their first of Super Bowl play. This is the third try, but they need 2 scores to go ahead. First down, Bradshaw calling signals. Handing the ball, and it's lost, and it's picked up by the Vikings. At the 47-yard line, Franco Harris dropped the ball, and the Vikings bounced on the ball. Looks like it could be Paul Krause that got it. He is a ball hawk. And now, the Vikings, as Tarkington drops on the field, have a chance to get in this. And again, the defense of the Steelers is called on. This is really what you could see they've been waiting on all day. They made it happen a couple times and didn't get credit for it. This one was a certain turnover, and now we're going to see. Lash to the left, get him to the right. Vikings trying to get back in it. Tarkington's going to throw on first down, heaving it long down the field. Gilliam is there, out of bounds, and the flag goes down on Mike Wagner. It'll be interference on Wagner inside the 10-yard line. Wagner complaining with the official on the play, but they're going to have a first and goal to go, and in 2 plays, a fumble and a pass interference penalty, the Vikings are right back in the ball game.
And they haven't had John Gilliam on the outside. They've been keeping him inside most of the day, using 2 receivers on the same side of the field. All year long, Francis has been throwing the ball whenever he sees the right defense down to Gilliam on first down. That's the first time it's happened today, and it's really right up their alley.
Kingsrunner comes in as a second tight end. First and goal to go from the 5-yard line. White has come in. Cornett has gone out defensively. Tarkington calling signals. Hands the ball to Foreman. Foreman gets inside the 5. A fumble on the play. Picked up by the Steelers, and they run it out to the 17-yard line. But the official's calling it back, but it belongs to the Steelers as Foreman fumbles. Vikings with a golden opportunity. Lose it on the first play. First and goal to go at the 5. It belongs to the Steelers at the 7.
I can see Joe Green out there. He's about as pumped up as I've ever seen one, man. He's rooting his offense on. These guys have made every defensive play a team can make, and they don't want it to get away.
Well, as we look at the instant replay, I don't know if we can tell who recovered the fumble. Joe Green went after it. So did a few other folks in there, and it's Green that picked it up and started to run. So credit Joe Green. Franco Harris, who fumbled last time, gets the ball again, tracks across the 10 out to the 15-yard line. Picks up 9 yards on the play before Jeff Steeman and Carl Eller make the stop. And the Steelers began to run it out with 12 and a half minutes to go. They lead by 9. They were picked by anywhere from 1 to 3, even though this is their first Super Bowl appearance. Harris has 129 yards and 24 carries. The Super Bowl record was set a year ago of 145 yards by Larry Zonka. Second down at about 1.5 yards. Ball is handed again to Harris, who tries to crack outside, still on his feet, and gets to the 15-yard line, and that's all.
Well, the thing we've got to keep in mind, it's 9-0. Despite this incredible effort, and it's one of the best defensive efforts I have ever seen, we must say that the Vikings, their defense has done a fine job. It's only 9-0, so no one has moved it that well.
Well, that's just telling it like it is, Dero.
Lynn Swan goes out, and Mike Webster comes in at center now. He's the man they use on snaps. This is a third down play. Third down and 2. And the Vikings were up and stop him short. Rocky Flyer hit by Alan Page, number 88. And now the Steelers must punt. And they're punting against the wind here in the fourth period. Jackie Wallace will be going back.
They've come awfully close, Kurt, several times to blocking punts. They've really been putting a big rush on, particularly from the right side.
Bobby Walden. Only one man back, that's Jackie Wallace. He's in Pittsburgh territory. He's shortened up because of the breeze. 20-mile-an-hour wind that Walden is punting into. Look out! They got it. And it's a Pittsburgh touchdown. Oh, and back Terry Brown recovered it. Nice call, D-Roll.
Well, you talk about effort, I'll tell you. You've got to give him such great credit.
I believe Matt Blair blocked it. Matt Blair, 59. Let's look. Yeah. Matt Blair blocked the punt, and it's recovered in the end zone by Terry Brown.
Blair was the same guy that made that good hit on the punt return a while ago. He comes in, number 59, really broke clean. There are 3 or 4 of them around there. That's what you call show business, folks. It's turned around a brand new ball game.
All right, Krause will spot it. Krause will try and kick it. It's incredible. A team with about 30 yards rushing has a chance to win this game. Oh, good.
He did.
Hit the left upright. Hit the left upright.
Son of a gun.
And now the Vikes will kick off, and the score is Pittsburgh 9, Minnesota 6.
Has the ball, hits the upright. It's so good. It's 9-6. We may play all week yet. Whoa! There's timeout on the field. Fourth quarter, 10.5 minutes to go. Pittsburgh leads Minnesota 9-6.
Some people ask you to wait an hour or two to have a muffler installed. Some may even ask you to wait all day. That's a waste of time. Because at Midas, we're geared to replace a muffler in 30 minutes or less, which is faster than any other place in town, for a very simple reason. Any other place installs mufflers as a sideline. At Midas, we do it for a living. We have to do a better job. If you drive a 1947 DeSoto into most places looking for a muffler, you'll get a lot of laughs. If you drive a 1947 DeSoto into a Midas shop looking for a muffler, you'll get a new muffler. Because we make it our business to have mufflers for almost any kind of car you're driving. In fact, we make mufflers for more than 1,700 car models. Midas, we install mufflers for a living. We have to do a better job.
Jim Simpson with John Brody in New Orleans. Cox will kick it off. Davis is standing out at the 12-yard line. Remember, to start the game in the second half, the Steelers kicked it low and got a fumble. They're not staying deep despite the fact that Cox has the wind at his back. 9-6, 10.5 minutes to go. And now the ball has been blown off the tee. So Cox will trot up and put it down again. That wind is blowing here in New Orleans. And many of the people who were here have succumbed to the weather because now we see many empty seats in the upper deck across the way. Kicked along the ground. Picked up by Reggie Harrison at the 20-yard line. Reserve back. Gets outside and is run out of bounds at about the 34-yard line where it'll be 1st and 10. When McClanahan ran him out of bounds. First down at the 34. Well, it has been defense that has scored 2 of these scores today. A safety for Pittsburgh and a block kick into a touchdown. The lead points. The touchdown by Pittsburgh set up by a low kickoff that was recovered at the 30-yard line and run in from the 30 by Franco Harris on a 9-yard counter after the 3 other plays that got it down to the 9-yard line. Bradshaw, Franco Harris is really hit by Jeff Seaman head on. And for the first time today, a Steeler man hardly makes it back to the line of scrimmage, and Harris does not make it back to the line of scrimmage. Second down, 11. You get a turnover like they just got and a big break and get them back in the ball game, that gives them new life. It's remarkable how they hung in there, having been seen no results for 3 quarters, and they've definitely got reason now. Stallworth to the left, Swan to the right. Second down, a little bit more than 10 yards to go. Bradshaw hands off to Franco Harris. Harris picks up yardage across the 40 and out to about the 42-yard line. It'll be third down and short yardage. Carl Eller came back to make the tackle. He did, but Jerry Mullen got out again, and he's made some good yards going to the left, each time by Jerry Mullen pulling and getting a good block on the linebacker. Third down and 2 to go from the 42-yard line. Clock continues to run. 9:20, 9-6 our score. Pittsburgh over Minnesota. Swan goes to the right. Stallworth comes to the left. Steelers moving against the strong wind. Bradshaw checking his line, now setting behind the center. Third short yardage, dropping back on 3rd and 2. Bradshaw's going to go long. Does, and it is caught by Larry Brown, the tight end. First down inside a 30-yard line. He dropped the ball, picked up by the Vikings, and going to them. Larry Brown on a first down. The Steelers are now arguing he was down before he dropped the ball. One official pointed one way, now the official said belongs to the Steelers. The official in the background there, perhaps the back judge, said it belonged to the Vikings. But he was overruled. It belongs to the Steelers at the 29. I agree with the call in this case. Larry Brown was putting the ball away. He was actually down. The whistle was blown. And the man who called it was from the back, where he could see that Brown was down before the ball was released. He was from upfield behind the offensive players. The back judge, far down the field, called it, and he was looking through a gaggle of Minnesota defenders. On first down at the 28-yard line. Stallworth left, Swan to the right. And now, the Viking fans again. The first and same going we've heard this afternoon. Flyers, second man through, gets inside the 25-yard line, and the flag is down, and the Vikings may have been moving. Rouse made the tackle. It is the Vikings. Motion called against the Steelers. It'll bring it back. It also looked like it might have been a legal procedure. Nope, it's strictly motion called against the Steelers. From the 28 to the 33 it goes. So it's first and 15 from there. 8 penalties for 123 yards this afternoon against the Steelers. That's a lot of yardage. 8:48 to go. 9-6 Pittsburgh. Swan pops out to the right. Stallworth gallops to the left. On first down 15. Bradshaw hands to Blyer, who may have gotten a yard. And that's all. It'll be second down and 14. From the 33-yard line. Alan Page, Jim Marshall there to make the stop. Been a most unusual Super Bowl game. First safety ever. Jarrella has had his first punt of the year blocked. Cox, his extra point, hits the goal post.
I've never seen, Jim, so many second down, 14-15 situations.
That's what we've got now. Second down. Bradshaw hands to Blyer. Big hole for Blyer. Blyer cuts the secondary. Has the first down. Down to the 15-yard line. Paul Krause and Jeff Wright made the stop. Big hole for Rocky Blyer.
They've used Rocky Flyer very sparingly. On this play, they send Franco Harris, who has been getting most of the action lately, right up the middle, handed on a counter play to Rocky Flyer. He found the hole, made a nice run.
They marked the ball back a yard at the 16-yard line. Swan right, Stallworth left. Big Franco Harris hadn't been called on his last series of plays. He's been Flyer. Harris now splits a couple of yards more to the right. And this time he gets the ball on a misdirected play and pounds down inside the 15. Goes from the 16 down to about the 13 where Eller and Seaman made the stop. Second down. And 6 to go as they mark the ball at the 12-yard line. 9-6. 7:04 to go. On that play, we had a chance to look at the instant replay, and it clearly showed that Larry Brown was indeed down before he fumbled. So if there's a question in your mind, we have looked at it on television, and it was the proper call. Swan to the right, Stallworth to the left. Second down, 6 from the 12. Harris trying to get outside, does not, except perhaps a yard to the 11-yard line, and that's about all. It'll be third down. Linebackers Winston and Seaman came in to make the tackle.
This, Jim, is really a big play. If they get a leading by 6, is a long difference from leading by 10. And by no means is Minnesota out of the game if they score 3 points. Yet if they score 7, it looks awful bleak.
Third down. 5 to go from the 11-yard line. Stallworth left, Swan to the right, back split in the backfield. Bradshaw dropping back to throw. Bradshaw looking, Bradshaw throwing, has his man, pushed down at the 6-yard line. Paul Krause makes the stop of Rocky Flyer, who came out of the backfield and takes it to the 6. Excellent play, and Bradshaw hung back there, waited. Offensive line gave him exceptional protection. He let the whole coverage develop, and then Blair came out on a delay pattern, picking up the first down. Good call, good execution. First down from the 6-yard line. 5:28 to go in the game. Larson has come in. Krause has come out. They've got 5 defensive linemen. Eller, Sutherland, Larson, Page, and Marshall. Stallworth goes out wide to the right. Mullins has become a tight end. They have thrown to him in this situation. Number 72, an offensive guard and tackle, is on that left side now, but they give the ball to Harris, who pounds inside the 5-yard line, down to about the 3. So Roy Winston came up to make the tackle. 5 minutes, now less than 5 minutes to go in this 9-6 ball game. They mark the ball at the 3, and it's second down from there. Swan comes back in. Stallworth goes out. Perhaps Chuck Knoll at this point is calling plays from the bench. Mullins, 72, remains a tight end on the left side. Earlier this year in a playoff game against Buffalo, they threw him a little 7-yard pass for a touchdown. And now Mullins splits out about 5 yards on that left side. Bradshaw calling signals on second down from the 3-yard line. Bradshaw hands the ball off to Harris, and Harris just gets back to the line of scrimmage. Jackie Wallace led the tacklers in as Hilgenberg was shadowing Mullins all the way, but it was a running play all the way, and now it is third down. The ball placed down at the 4. Third down from the 4.
And all the time, the clock keeps moving. There's just under 4 minutes to play now, and it's very vital that they hold them here. As I mentioned earlier, if they can keep it under 7 points, they're still very much in this game.
Krause comes in, and Hilgenberg, the right side, weak side linebacker, comes out. On third down and 4. Stallworth is back in to the left. Bradshaw rolling to the right, looking to the right. Now throwing into the end zone. Touchdown, Larry Brown. Bradshaw brings them all the way. The final 4 yards to Larry Brown, the tight end.
Bradshaw made a great play, Jim. He rolled out to his right, brought the defensive line back. Bradshaw, he just absolutely bulleted that ball in there. I think he stuck it in it.
66 yards, 11 plays, by far and away the longest drive of the day for either team, and it came when the Steelers had to have it, and when the Vikings could ill afford to allow it to happen. But it did happen. 66 yards, Bradshaw moved the ball with two important strikes to Larry Brown. One for first down on 3rd and 14, another on 3rd down and 4. He found Larry Brown in the end zone just after the Vikings had put in a fifth defensive back. Walden coming out to hold. He was not on the field. Chuck Noll had to motion him out on the field. He is the holder for Girella. Waiting for the snap for center. 3:31 to go in the game. Here's the snap and the kick. And it was good. And with 3:31 to go in the game, the Steelers 16, the Minnesota Vikings 6. Along with John Brody, Jim Simpson back in New Orleans, 3:31 to go. Girella will kick it off. Into the wind. They're up by 10 points. Ball is kicked into the wind, and it is very short. And it's taken by McClanahan at the 18-yard line. McClanahan trying to swing right, gets across the 30-yard line, gets out across the 35, and is wrestled down by Jim Allen, a defensive back as he hits to the 39-yard line. It'll be 1st and 10 for the Vikings, and Fran Tarkington have gone to the field. The situation is such that Francis doesn't have a lot of time to make a drive in any consistency at all. What he has to do is put the ball up, get some big breaks and some long gainers so that he can get the ball back and get it back into position to kick another field goal. That's the only chance they have, so I doubt if you'll ever see the ball go on the ground. Last to the left, Gilliam to the right. High formation, Tarkington with the ball rolling out to the left. Looking, throwing downfield. It's going to be intercepted by Mike Walker across the 40. Back across the 50, still to the 45, and down to the 41-yard line. Guarnieri makes the stop. And the Steelers with a 10-point lead at 3:07 to go have the ball after having used up 7 minutes and 2 seconds with their other drive. Wagner picks off the third pass from Fran Tarkington, who's had at least 4 deflected this afternoon, let alone the 3 that have been intercepted. And that Viking defense has to come back. 5 turnovers for the Vikings this afternoon. From the 41-yard line, Steelers put the ball in play. Swan goes out to the right. Shaw was to the left. Bradshaw, you would assume as the clock continues to run, would keep the ball on the ground. 3:07 to go. Bradshaw hands the ball off to Harris, who bangs across the 40-yard line down to the 39-yard line. Stopped momentarily at the 41. He got to the 39. The hit made by Wally Hilgenberg. Clock continues to run. And as they trot back to the huddle, let's cut out for a second. Let's pause 10 seconds for safety identification.
WMAQ Chicago goes country on January 15th.
To the right, Stallworth left, 2:35 and counting to go. 2nd down and 8 for the Steelers. Bradshaw calling signals, gives to big Franco Harris. Harris is dragged down by Jim Marshall. He picks up another yard, and it's 3rd down and 7 to go. Well, it's not over yet, but if the Vikings have to go back with yet a 3rd Super Bowl defeat, their 2nd in as many years, it will indeed be a bitter pill to swallow. As far as the Steelers are concerned, if Mr. Art Rooney wins in their first attempt, the Steelers will have a wonderful winner, won't they? There's the 2-minute mark. 2 minutes to go. The ball on the 38-yard line. And Bradshaw walks slowly to the sideline. Franco Harris unofficially has broken Larry Zonka's record of a year ago. In 33 attempts a year ago, Zonka gained 145 yards. In 33 attempts this year, Harris 146 yards. Well, you're going to be hearing, if we have time, from the dressing rooms once this game is over. That is where John Brody is gone right now. But if we don't have a chance to tell you, in the first quarter, the Steelers, who had the pressure on all the way, missed a 38-yard field goal and then failed to get off a 33-yard attempt when the ball was dropped by the holder Walden. Then Blyer fumbled for the Steelers inside the 20-yard line. The Vikings got it. And Cox tried a field goal from a 39-yard line that was no good. So there was no blood. So late in the second quarter, Francis Starkington recovered a fumble in the Minnesota backfield in the end zone. He was pounced on for a safety and a half, ended 2-0. In the third quarter, Durella kicked off with the ball along the field. Bill Brown and company, the Vikings, could not handle it. And it was recovered at the 30-yard line by Pelham. 4 plays later, Franco Harris ran it in from the 9 to make it 9-0. And then with 10:33 to go in the fourth quarter, the Vikings blocked the first Bobby Walden kick of the year. That has been blocked. Turned it into a touchdown, but Cox missed the extra point when it hit the goalpost. That made it 9-6. You just heard the last pass to Larry Brown to make it 16-6. And of course, the result of interception by Mike Wagner. Now third down. The ball is handed to Franco Harris, trying to get outside across the 40-yard line. Inside the 30, he's got a first down, and he's got that record by 20 now as Harris goes inside the 25-yard line. Hilgenberg makes the stop. First down for the Steelers. Clock continues to run. 1:45 to go, and Harris is well over the 150-yard mark now. And now the Vikings are going to call timeout with 1:40 to go. Jeff Seaman, middle linebacker, walks to the sideline, and already the fans begin to leave Tulane Stadium. 80,997 here. And back in frigid Minnesota, I'm sure many of the loyal Viking fans are saying, this just hasn't been our weekend. Started out with a snowstorm. Many Viking fans were snowed in, could not get down here. 6 charter planes were left on the ground yesterday. The Vikings came down here underdogs by perhaps 2 points, but down by 10 at the moment. And their only score, a blocked punt. They have not come close to scoring on their own, except when Gilliam was interfered with at the 5-yard line, and they could not turn that in to a score as Chuck Foreman fumbled on the first play. From the 23-yard line now. 1:40 to go. Confetti begins to ring itself down on this Tulane Stadium. Many of the 80,000 plus have gone. First down from the 23-yard line. Bradshaw at the line of scrimmage. Bradshaw hands to Rocky Blyer. Blyer picks up big yardage across the 20, inside the 20, down to about the 17-yard line. It'll be second down and 4 to go. A gain of 6 for Blyer. Clock continues to run. The Vikings have not called timeout. They're down by 10, 1:20. The 9th Super Bowl is coming to a close. Flyers gained 68 yards himself. Franco Harris has the new record. We'll give you the unofficial total for Harris in a moment. 158 yards for Franco Harris thus far. A Super Bowl rushing record. And he gets, there's an end around the Swan, and they played it perfectly. Carl Eller waiting for it, and throws him back to the 26-yard line. 51 seconds to go. Swan tried it end around. As John Brody indicated, the way Swan, or the other wide receiver that's going to take the end around, winds up. It's almost a tip-off to the defense that here he comes. Time has been called by the Vikings. With 51 seconds to go. Well, the season, with the exception of the Pro Bowl game, which is a week from Monday, comes to a close. And for Mr. Art Rooney, owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, age 74, when asked if the Steelers did win today, how he would celebrate, he said, I'll just light up a cigar. He is 51 seconds away from lighting up a cigar. As Bud Grant said when asked before this game, how do you feel losing 2 Super Bowls? The only man ever to have done that. He said, well, you go home, you lie behind a log, you put put a cloth in your mouth and you hope for another shot. Well, apparently Bud Graham's going to have to go home and lie behind a log again and put the cloth in his mouth and hope for a fourth shot because apparently 10 points down with 51 seconds to go. Apparently he is lost in his third attempt. Both defenses have been awesome today. Both defenses have scored today. But of course, the Minnesota running game has not been able to come up with much at all today, and that has been the big story. Remember, everybody says, establish a running game. Unofficially, the Vikings have rushed for 19 yards today. Rocky Bleier with the football, blockers in front of him, gets inside the 20-yard line. It'll be fourth down from the 17-yard line with 41 seconds to go. And time called, and that's the third and last time out of the Minnesota Vikings. They may get the football back. But if they do, they'll only have 41 seconds or less and no timeouts left. Terry Bradshaw is going over. On fourth down and 4, do you want to run the football for the first down? And if you don't get it, they can't stop the clock. I would imagine that's what they're going to do, because if they tried for a field goal, they had 3 more points, that would automatically stop the clock. And what if it was blocked, or what if you didn't make it? So why not run it one more time? Because almost before the Vikings can get on the field and get another play off, time will have run out. Ball is at the 17-yard line. Steelers huddling at the 30-yard line, and the Steeler fans have come down along the edge of the field, and they will really, you'll hear from them once this ball game is over. They've waited 42 years for a championship of the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and it looks like they've got it. Fourth down and 4. The ball is handed to Bleier. Bleier's knocked down in the backfield by Jim Marshall. That stops the clock. Change of possession at the 22-yard line. Vikings rush out. 37 seconds to go. It'll be first down there. They'll wait till the Vikings get set. And the Steeler defense comes on the field, patting the hands of the Steeler offense as it goes off the field. Steve Furness has played much of the second half with Dwight White finally succumbing, or apparently tired, but White, who has been in the hospital nearly all week long, played a tremendous game. So did Ernie Holmes, Joe Green, and L.C. Greenwood. Absolutely tremendous. Lambert and Russell have not been in there. As in Bradley and Taves, here is Tarkington back to throw a swing pass over the head. It was tipped again by L.C. Greenwood. And by personal count, that's the fourth deflection for Greenwood alone this afternoon. That stopped the clock with 33 seconds to go. Second down and 10 to go from the 23. In quickly for the first time today comes Oscar Reed into the backfield, number 32. Tarkington is 10 for 25 for 105 yards, and he has been intercepted 3 times this afternoon. And he has had at least a half a dozen balls deflected this afternoon. Oscar Reed now in the backfield with Foreman. The ball is looped out to Oscar Reed at the 15-yard line on the left side, and Lawrence Hayes is right there with him and buries him at the 20, and that probably will be it unless the Vikings really huddle in a hurry, because the clock is running and there's no way they can stop it. Some of the Vikings are looking around to shake hands, and they're going to count it down. Vikings not going to get another play off. Alan Page out on the field. He's a defensive man. He's headed to the dugout. He and the rest of the Minnesota Vikings say it is all over. That's it. The Steelers, first time in 42 years of championship. Minnesota, for the third time in 9 years in a Super Bowl, goes home a loser. And for the third time, held to a single touchdown. This one scored by the defense. The final score of Super Bowl IX, Pittsburgh 16, Minnesota 6. Well, the balloon is rising, the flags are flying, and there goes the Oom-Pa-Pa the band. The Chrysler Corporation's Car Clearance Carnival is underway. Hi, I'm Joe Garrishow.
And for the next few weeks, I'll be your ringmaster, bringing you all kinds of great values on Chryslers, Plymouth, and Dodges. Now, we've got a lot of cars to move, and we're going to move them. So if you want to make a great deal on a new car, watch for my Carnival announcements. You stay on your toes now, because things will be happening fast. I mean they're going to be happening fast. I'll be announcing cashback deals on new model cars, 72-hour trade-in bonuses on certain used cars. One of them may be yours. And there'll be all kinds of free offers, surprises, and a colossal Carnival sweepstakes. So make your plans to come to Chrysler Corporation's Car Clearance Carnival. Is going on at your Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge dealers. It's a Carnival of values.
Jim Simpson with John Brody, and the teams are just now beginning to make their way up through the tunnel. And we hope to be able to remain on the air because I'm sure many of you around the country and around the world would like to hear what is being said, especially in the Pittsburgh dressing room, where they have every reason to be proud, not only their defense, but of their offense. Because late in the ball game, when they blocked the kick of Bobby Walden and came within 9-6, the ball game clearly was up for grabs. But it was at that time that the Pittsburgh offense finally took over. And Terry Bradshaw drove them 66 yards, using up 7 minutes and 2 seconds of the clock. And throwing the final 4 yards, a bullet pass into the arms of tight end Larry Brown. And so the day belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so the day belongs to their owner, Mr. Art Rooney. And so in the upper Midwest of our country, and wherever Viking fans are around the world, it's the third time in 9 years that they have settled back to say, well, there's next year. And this means that out of 9 Super Bowl games, 6 have been won by the American Football Conference. This means that the last 3 have been won by the American Football Conference, and 6 of the last 7 have been won by the American Football Conference. We can look into the Steeler dressing room now as a television monitor. He is in our radio booth. We can see Reggie Harrison walking in, Mr. Art Rooney shaking hands with everybody. He is there to greet them. Jerry Mullins, who made several superior blocks today, coming in. Propping it up, there's Reggie Harrison. Glenn Edwards comes over to say hello. And there's a jubilant scene in that Pittsburgh dressing room. And the 1974 season is over, and so is the 1975 Super Bowl. Some of the Steelers are still having a little difficulty in getting to the dressing room. We'll repeat again. The touchdowns in this ball game were scored, and there was a safety, were scored by Franco Harris, who today broke all Super Bowl rushing records with 158 yards from 9 yards out and on the 4-yard pass. The only Minnesota touchdown was scored when Blair dropped the kick, and Terry Brown picked it up in the end zone. He blocked the kick, and Brown picked it up in the end zone, and that's the only time that Minnesota scored. So the final score is 16-6. It is bedlam down in the dressing room of the Steelers, the only ones that we're privileged to see by way of television in a booth. And I'm sure it's just the opposite in the Minnesota Vikings dressing room. The Vikings with Fran Tarkington, the amazing Chuck Foreman, who can catch passes, who can run with the ball, and today a great deal of the time was used as a wide receiver. And the Purple People Eaters defense. The defense that a lot of people said was too old, certainly held its own today and kept holding in there and hanging in there regardless of the situation. And they're able to hang in, but the offense just could not move against the Steeler defense. And when all is said and done, and they'll talk a lot about Franco Harris tomorrow, you've got to talk about the pass deflections of L.C. Greenwood, the hard line play of Joe Green and Ernie Holmes, that time and again dumped the Minnesota backs in their own backfield and unofficially held them to just 19 yards. And the courage of Dwight White, who came out of the hospital for a second time this week to play all of the first half and a great deal of the second half, despite the fact he's been bothered by viral ailments. We saw Andy Russell, the outside, weak side linebacker, limp to the sidelines. We saw Lauren Taves come in and take over his place. We did not see Jack Lambert in the middle get hurt. But Lambert did not play the last quarter. Ed Bradley, a reserve, did. So the Steelers were using Jack Ham, their all-pro regular, Ed Bradley, and Lauren Taves as their linebackers. Their three linebackers, three of their strengths, two of the three were gone. For a moment, we're going to be going down to the Steelers dressing room. And the Super Bowl, many people will say, again, it was conservatively played. Remember last year, Minnesota and Miami. Miami scored on the first two drives it had, and thereafter, it was a game that many people called a crashing bore. This game at halftime was 2-0, but I don't think anybody could call this game a crashing bore. That is, unless you fail to look at defenses. Obviously, there were no great offensive players until Franco Harris and the Steelers got things untracked in the second half. And Harris raced to 158 yards, and Bradshaw in the final moments was able to move them for 66 yards and a score. But the defense on both sides was tremendous. There was hard hitting, there were interceptions, there were deflections, and it was a game in which the kicking game counted for a lot. Because remember, the kickoff of the second half set up the first touchdown of the Pittsburgh Steelers when it was fumbled, kicked along the ground. And it was the punting of Bobby Walden when it was blocked that gave the Minnesota Vikings their only score. So it was a game of defense and the kicking game. And right now, we're about to go down into the Pittsburgh dressing room to pick up the action down there to just see what is happening in the Pittsburgh dressing room with the jubilant Mr. Art Rooney. And I say that knowing Mr. Rooney very well. When I say jubilant, he will have a quiet, slow smile on his face, a cigar in his mouth, and he'll be walking around congratulating each one. You know, there are a lot of kind owners around the National Football League and baseball and professional sports, but not many will bring their greenskeepers, their groundskeepers, and everybody associated with the team to a situation like a Super Bowl for Pittsburgh, far off New Orleans. Rod Rooney did just that. We're still hanging on with the opportunity of going down to the dressing room and to hear from the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the meantime, we will tell you that our coverage today of Super Bowl IX has been produced by Ed Smith and our technical supervision by Dan Hozak. We'd like to remind you also that on February the 1st, as we look ahead to what's ahead in sports, that Barry Tompkins joins NBC Radio on February the 1st. And on each weekend thereafter, we're going to have 14 reports of what is going on in sports on NBC Radio. That's your NBC local station. Terry Bradshaw, many wondered about his braininess. Could he look over the defenses? Could he call the plays? Or did he just have a strong arm and a strong body? There were several plays called today of misdirection on the running game. And certainly his passing, some of the passes that were knocked down or one that was intercepted, he really put on the money. So Bradshaw had a great day today, even though offensively I would imagine the day belongs to Franco Harris. He did score the touchdown. He did break the rushing record. Defensively, well, I don't know how they're going to pick a defensive player for this. L.C. Greenwood certainly did a lot. The defensive backs did a lot. Joe Green did a lot. Ernie Holmes. You cannot fault the play, for example, of Carl Eller or Alan Page. But you must realize the fact that they usually give that kind of award to a man on the winning team. And there are many outstanding men on the Pittsburgh winning team. Well, apparently we're not going to be able to get down to the Steeler dressing room. It's a disappointment for me, and I'm sure for you too. So we'll just have to say that the final score is 16-6 in a defensive battle which the Steelers have won their 9th Super Bowl. And today's 9th Super Bowl has been brought to you by RCA, makers of RCA XL 100 solid state color TV. Exxon Company USA, who says, let's make every mile count. Midas, remember, when it comes to what's under your car, at Midas, they're specialists. They have to do a better job. And by Chrysler Corporation, your Dodge and Chrysler Plymouth dealers invite you to see the Chrysler Car Clearance Carnival. Now this is Jim Simpson along with John Brody from chilly Tulane, where the Minnesota Vikings have been stilled by the Pittsburgh Steelers 16-6. Goodbye, and this has been an NBC Radio Network Sports presentation.
We're now in the locker room of the victors, and we have, of course, the commissioner, the head coach, and Mr. Rooney. Commissioner?
Well, Mr. Rooney, for over 42 years, you've been making more friends, I think, than anyone in the history of sports. If I had to guess right now, I would say that your strongest emotion would not be one of personal happiness, but happiness and relief for those fans in Pittsburgh and your friends all over the country that your team and your organization didn't let them down today. And on behalf of all of them, I'd like to extend my warmest congratulations to you, your great coach, Chuck Noll, your son and president, Dan, and the entire family, and a great, great football team.
Thanks, Pete. I'm grateful to the players and to Chuck Noll and his staff and to all the people in our organization. That this was a great day for me personally and a great day for Pittsburgh. But the players and the coaches all year long thought that they would get this trophy, and I'm certainly grateful to them all. Thank you.
Congratulations, sir. I know that so many people that want to visit with you and so much happiness, and there's so many tears in this locker room, and they're all of joy for you, sir.
Well, I certainly appreciate it because they're a great bunch of fellas, and I thought that just from being with them all year and being with Chuck Noll and the staff, that I'm not a bit surprised that they won the Super Bowl.
And we're awfully happy for you, sir.
Thank you a lot.
I know you want to get down with the ball players, and let me move over and talk with Chuck. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you very much. Boy, it's a big day.
Go back a long way in professional football, 15 years now.
I shudder to think of it. Yes.
Everything went, obviously, the way that you planned.
Well, you'd like to say that, but obviously they don't. We had a few mistakes out there, but I think our football team was functioning pretty much like they have all year. They just weren't going to be denied, and they played that kind of football. I think probably in our minds, you know, the most fitting thing about this whole thing was that our defense was able to shut out a team in the championship game in the Super Bowl. I thought that was, I think, demonstrative of the way our team was all year. A great defensive team, our offense doing whatever it had to do to maintain possession and win the game.
The only selection, not the only selection, but one of the selections, you know, when people were deciding whether you should be the favorite or whether Vikings would be the favorite, is that they would use history. That the fact that the team basically that had been here before and had been through, you know, the circus of Super Bowl week. You know, this didn't seem to bother your ball club at all.
No, as I said going in, they just weren't going to be denied. They had it in their mind that they wanted it very badly, and whatever cost or whatever it was, however hard they had to go, they were going to get it.
What does the future hold?
Well, we're going to enjoy this right now. Right? We're going to enjoy this right now. Every year, every week, we have to think of the game coming up next week. There aren't any more games, and we're going to relax and enjoy this for a little bit, but I think we're going to enjoy it for just a short time and then get on to next year.
And then be ready for next season. All ready?
That's right. It comes around fast.
Chuck, congratulations again. I know you want to be with the ball players, and we'll be back with more of the locker room and a chance to visit with some of the victors here. Okay, Chuck. All right, we're now back in our interview room, which is just off of the locker of the Pittsburgh Steelers with the quarterback Terry Bradshaw and also, of course, Al DeRogatis, Don Meredith, and John Brody. And let's just turn it open. Don?